Dino? Dino is actually really old, because Dino was around when James was being a goof. Oh, okay, this works out perfect, I guess. So
are we gonna go in like alphabetical order or in
I'm just
order of
gonna
its
go through
grade?
the history, but I want to give people the opportunity to kind of like chime in, and we can talk about goofy stories as we go. And
Okay. Okay, I'm good now.
okay, you're good.
Start out at the beginning.
Yeah.
Work our way
In
through.
the beginning, there was a clock. So yeah, the whole nation started out with like freaking Mr. Clucky like abandoning Ghana. He's like, I'm gonna do this, and then he's
It
like, I'm
all
not.
started with Mr. Clucky 123.
1, 2, 3, abandoning Ghana and going to the place where Arcangeist always deserved to be. Instead, Arcangeist got pushed up into Labrador, which he was fine with. But Clucky had the town. So Arcangeist, who would go on to what? Hi.
Sorry, I just got my mobile game switched over to my laptop. Also, can I just say that Yodabest sounds a lot like you? Am I crazy? Like when I heard
Sounds
that,
a lot like who?
U238. Am I crazy?
Oh,
Like,
I do not think so, but I guess it's. I've been able to...
I mean, I'm connecting on my computer right now, so I might.
oh, by the way, Hazel, I'm picking up. I saved a bunch of the Charlie memes and a bunch of other tons of stuff. I found them.
Oh,
so...
I have a few of them myself as well.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is the best tournament by far.
We're going through the history, so everybody can kind of chime in with little things they want as we go. So
if anybody would like the images, I'm putting them in the 2-year chat.
Well, going anyway, just add stuff if you like in the 2-year chat over this. But so Clucky abandoned Ghana. He came to Canada, and he basically was like packing, like he was like ready to go. So like he goes here, he leaves Africa like on the 27th of April, gets to like no, I think it's the 28th. Then he gets to like Newfoundland, sets up his town, and then like sets up his nation. So he's just like boom, boom, ready to go, Canada in the town. Anyway, so I end up like getting killed. Like I was just abandoning China. I was a Chinese refugee, and I was just like not dealing with this.
Wait, you were from China too?
I was only there. I only joined China to get closer to North America because I didn't know you could just cross over like that, and like spooky like edge.
It is pretty spooky. I mean, I lost a good few cows trying to go over there.
It's like top 10 spookiest places, Earth MC edition. Dude, oh my goodness, there's a lot of people. So
by the way, I put the memes in the chat.
Obligatory Wabanaki is dead.
Obligatory. Yeah, this is probably the most people I've ever seen in a single chat. Like this beats a lot of stuff I've seen.
This bot will be muted.
Okay, that wasn't muted though.
Server mute it, please.
Okay, moving on. I joined because I was trying to set up a town in Maine, and then I kept dying. I was like, Clucky, you're close to where I want to be. Can I go there? And he's like, absolutely. So I teleport to him, and he's like, hey, buddy. I was like, hi. And he's like, want to work with me in Canada? I was like, oh, okay. I guess I want to go into interior Quebec. And he's like, not if I have anything to say about it. So then he brings me down to Anacostia, and he's like, I think this would be a good place for you. And I'm like, I don't know, kind of like interior Quebec. And he's like, I kind of like this place for you. So that is the story about how I get on Anacostia. Mr. Clucky's like, nah, you're going to be in the St. Lawrence page. I was like, okay. So, hi.
Okay,
anyway.
I'm not connected again.
Okay. Well, you keep trying your best. So,
okay.
After that, I was in college, and I was just kind of doing things once the blue moon. But Clucky was trying to set up a nation, and he was just doing his best. He was just inviting people, but I always had to kind of like work through Clucky. We had Nithadison join soon after me, and then we had Prince Edward Island with the Overlord, who I helped.
That guy.
And then, and then eventually this crazy kid whose name was like Deming22, like eventually showed up, and he built a stupid bridge all the way to an island that Blast was trying to set up. So, like, literally, our first interaction with Dime was Mr. the Overlord being like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he did this," and someone's echo has
oh
to.
Oh my god, please no, please no more echo.
Dear God, kill me now.
I would love to die.
Mr. Clucky, or the Overlord was basically complaining like I can't handle this kid being over here. So literally, the Overlord literally like destroys all of Dime's, which is the Deming 22. Dime's town, like his buildings are ugly, and just basically starts taking stuff down. So already, we had some interesting chemistry in the community. Well, time goes on. We're still kind of getting a grip of everything. Prestige worldwide is starting to become worldwide, and well, it already was, but it's getting a little aggressive.
It wasn't PWW.
Yep, it's PWW. Rojo was part of them once, and then
I remember when
eventually-
PWW was disbanded and everyone was flipping out, and then they were like, "Let's just make a new one," and then they made PI, which was stupid because everyone was inactive. So after that disbanded, we had to wait for a vote to be, because America didn't know where to go after that. So they're like, "Do we join Canada or do we make an independent nation?" And like, I think we all voted to join Canada, but then Canada had to vote to let us in because we weren't in Canada.
Yeah, I remember you actually. I believe you guys did the vote before PI fell because you guys are basically like abandoning ship. Like, well,
yeah,
this
because we were the only active members of PI.
yeah, it's very sad. Though I can't complain because it definitely didn't hurt our chances. Well,
Yay,
anyway,
revisionism.
eventually Clucky stopped playing. So there was like after he was like leading and we were kind of like getting like off the ground, he stopped playing, and eventually I was like, well, I guess I'm doing Wabanaki or something. I like anonymous. I put a picture of the original flag design in the Discord, and I was like, well, I think maybe this could be a possibility, you know, me breaking up and doing my own thing. And Clucky definitely didn't pick up on that. So eventually I messaged him. I'm like, we need to talk about your leadership. And he's like, you know what? You're right. I think you should be leader. I'm like, that's not what I was going at. But he just literally made me leader. So I was on my island, just doing island things. And then Clucky's like, okay, you're the boss, man. Bye. And then that was the last time we heard from him for like he was there the day following, and then he was like gone until September. So he was just gone. So then I became Supreme Hoyenah, and basically if you've seen the wiki, you kind of know. But Hoyenah was basically a name that I came up with. I was doing a Native American themed town, so I was looking up kind of like titles because you could make titles before your name for anybody who remembers. And I was like, I want to do Hoyenah. So I did that, and then when I became...
Wasn't it because, whatever it's called, Prime Minister was too long or something like that?
Yeah, well, Clucky, he went by Prime. He was like leader of Canada, and then he tried Prime Minister for a while, and it just looked weird. And he wasn't elected, and he wasn't very Prime or Ministery, so I don't know. So I just became Hoyenah, and I kept it because it was like already a government position. It was more... Hoyenah is technically more equivalent to like a senator or a representative. It's not actually the leader of the Haudenosaunee, but kind of kept it. We made it our own. Well, I'm leader, and eventually I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to take over Canada. Let's do this. So I started putting more pressure on PI or PWW at the time, and eventually some random guy from Antarctica who's like doing his own thing. I was like, hey, you want to join? And he was like, I guess. So because Antarctica wasn't ever like colonized by any, they didn't have actual borders there. We were okay with that. So basically we were going to stay in Canada, and then anywhere else that it's not located in a real country, we took. So eventually, we end up getting the nation started forming outside, and it was expanding beyond St. Lawrence, and we grew to Hudson Bay. So Clucky made this Discord, and then eventually I only reason why I have a Discord account is because Clucky kept nagging me to make it, so that way we could do votes on whether we could swear in the Discord. I was like, what? True story. One of the first votes we ever had, because he had direct democracy, was if we should be able to swear in the well, it didn't pass, as in like people were allowed to swear. So he's like, well, I hope it's not too raunchy in here, and I was like, well, okay, Mr. Clucky. By the way, the first time I heard Clucky's voice was like later, like in the year, like he never spoke at all. We only started speaking in the Discord once Bear and Firewolf were so incompetent that I couldn't handle not speaking to them in VC to get things done. It was like trying to explain to somebody like how to freaking drink water, and they were just not getting it. I was like, oh my god, I had to literally speak. So I talked to Bear and Firewolf, and eventually we started using the VC, and bada bing, bada boom, look at all of you boobs. So, so Bear and Firewolf made the town Hudson Bay, and Hudson Bay, that's where things really changed, because all of a sudden they had this Australian kid who they had, and he's like, mate, and we're like, what? And he's like, I just found like 100 gold, and we're like, what? He's like, yeah, I have like 100 gold right now. We're like, how do you have 100 gold of any? How do you find 100 gold? He's like, I don't know, I'm just finding 100 gold, mate. And then Bear's like, you know what? I could probably use a bit of a cut there. You know, I mean, you're part of my town, so. He's like, it is technically my money, and we're all like, Bear, and he's like, ooh. So we had to set up like, we had to do 50% with Bear. We're like, you have to calm your tits down. He's like, I'm gonna claim the whole bay, and we're like, what? He's like, I just got all this money. I'm gonna claim the whole bay. So he just started claiming the whole bay. He just started claiming around the bay, and we're like, well, okay, this is a thing that's happening. Meantime, I'm dealing with Sin now because PWW is like, we own the world, so we're just gonna start putting out posts and taking over places. So eventually this guy named Artie showed up, and he started like, you did too. Yeah, well, I remember the first time I met you, I was like, oh, Riz 58, and you're like, it's an L, and I'm like, oh, that's not an L. I'm like, why are the other two letters capitalized? You're like, it's my initials, and it's not like it that way. I'm like, I'm calling you 58 then. So that was my first interaction with 58. We met in the end. I was like, I'm doing some end hopping, and he's like, oh.
That's how I got the nickname Agent 58.
Agent 58, because you're on the payroll. Some old memes.
What month are we at?
50%.
We're right in my first month. So, moving on. Eventually, we started getting a bunch of new people joining, and I was active enough, so all these new people were making towns. Eventually, we got a place called Valeria that joined us, and they were aggressive as heck, and they play an interesting story. But we'll get back to them. So in this time, we have all these new people joining. We have this crazy guy named Ark, who made a town right north of Clucky's town, which was probably going to fall. And Arcneus, who is in the chat, he would become a very good friend of mine while we were kind of setting the government. He would set up a very big town. He helped out a lot of people. And he's like one of the only people, actually he is the only person I ever really met that was actually from Newfoundland and Labrador IRL. So that was neat. So eventually, I was in my second month. I started to realize this is not going to last forever if it's just me. I'm basically going to make a government around me. So I started working with people. I'm like, let's actually turn this into a functioning republic. What?
What about Kingston?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened. We'll get to people when we get to people's leadership. They can add a bit more about who they are.
All right.
Otherwise, it's just footnote after footnote.
I actually came before Arcangeist, I'm pretty sure.
I do not know. Maybe I do know
sure
that.
Is interesting, but we don't care.
I do know that you came. You made your town in the Kingston area thanks to Red Newt, who basically made his own grave. So Red Newt and Canada were bumping heads because he was the closest nation to us. So Red Newt had
teleported me to North America.
Who? Red Newt? Yeah, we bumped heads a lot, but the thing about Red Newt, which is funny, is he actually had a nation. Like, so when I became leader, he managed to get his nation bigger than us, and then there was this massive rollback that happened. So, I went back a whole entire week. So we lost everybody got kicked. I got kicked from the leadership position. It was very stressful. Very stressful moment. What was really funny about the situation? What?
Was that
my first time got deleted from that.
I can't even hear you.
Oh, I just said that my first time got deleted in that.
Oh, okay. So yeah. Well,
You guys remember the Bob Wars?
We lost a lot of people. The funny part about it, though, is so 50 or not 58. The Overlord had like these 2 Italian guys, like IRL Italians, join his town, and then they like wrecked it. And then so he removed them and he fixed up the town and stuff. We get it rolled back. And then that massive server rollback put those 2 crazy Italian guys back into his town, and then they destroyed it again. And he's like, I just can't handle this. So that was fun. But
Wars.
the Bob Wars, that's what I was gonna get to. So the Bob Wars was, there was this guy. I don't want to deal with all this music. There shouldn't be a bot music bot to like.
Yeah, but I mean, it was kind of appropriate.
The Italian, I can give you that. Spooky Italians.
Yes.
Anyway,
Bob Wars.
what would go on? The Bob Wars started because we had all these fires happening, and all of a sudden, Blast Angel, who was an old member, found like a fire. He ran into like this guy named Bob, and he was burning down all these spruce trees. And Blast is like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, I'm looking for apples." And we're like, "You're burning the trees and you're looking for apples?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's how you find them, right?" And we're like, "You can't. No, what?" So Bob was from Connecticut, just burning up the Canadian forest. So we get triggered, and we basically are like, fix this, Red New. And he's like, I don't know, I'll get on that. So he doesn't do anything about it. And then all of a sudden, like, Dime and I are together, and then Dime's like, oh my god. And I was like, what? And he's just, this Bob guy just appeared in Dime's town and was just killing all the pigs. Killing them all right there. And we're like, oh my god. And then he, like, kills them all. Dime had, like, 50 pigs, something like that. And then he just kills them all. He's like, sorry. And then he just throws all the pork at Dime. 48 pork.
No. He kills all the pigs, and then you ask him why he killed them, and then he says that he was looking for apples.
This is where you find apples, right? These apples. So,
Sounds legit.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he was in Indonesia. Because we told him, like, we said, Red, you cannot bring him back. So Red's like, how do I get rid of him? And we're like, you just gotta bring him to spawn. Like, hey, come to spawn with me, and then ditch him there. And that's what he did. Red literally, he brought him to spawn and ditched him. So Red felt really bad. So there was this ugly, massive, like damage thing in one of the lakes, Lake Ontario. So, like, somebody was making, like, this giant hole that was, like, a perfect square, and they got rid of all the water, like, they were clearing it out. So Red Newt fixed that for us, and then Brendan made Kingston. And
No,
so
he fixed it the day that I came along.
yeah,
Remember,
but he was
I was
fixing
watching
it.
him.
Yeah, but you guys are like, but what was funny about that is he was fixing that lake for Brendan, and Brendan would go on to be one of the biggest towns, and eventually he'd have like a massive headache trying to keep territory from Brendan, and that became a funny fiasco. But we'll get back to that later. So eventually, during my leadership, we were accumulating a lot of money, and we end up bumping heads with PWW. So this was like the quintessential like moment between us and like PWW. So just for some reference, Canada at the time was in the top 4 biggest nations, and the 3 that were the biggest beside us were Prestige Worldwide Sweden and Jing, which is China. So it was Prestige Worldwide Sweden, which just eventually became Sweden, and then Jing, and they were all once part of the same nation. They were all kind of like 2 of them broke off. So it was just basically us, and then like a posse of like all the same group of people that were kind of like good friends. Well, needless to say, people didn't like PWW. Like they actually required people to pay for the freedom of towns. So when somebody wanted to leave the nation, they had to actually pay them to leave. So we actually were making payments. We were buying people's freedom, and eventually we just stopped telling PWW that people were leaving, because like we had Klondike, which we just didn't tell them about. But we also had Yellowknife. I think Yellowknife was one. There was a few. Treekru we had to pay for. And then we had a few more that we just didn't talk about because it was just obnoxious. Well, that caused problems. And Valeria, like our whole community was just rallying around this. Artie was going to... So Artie, what would become Athabasca, he was about to take it over. And then America, one of the people in America, the city of America, it was Argonog, I think specifically, but I don't know where he was. I thought it was America, but it was Argonog if owned it. Anyway, already basically paid to have it removed, the outpost, and he made a town there. We told him to make a town there, so he made the town this old like ruined city. And after that, we said we will never pay for people to remove territory ever again. And as far as I'm aware of, the government never approved it. Maybe an individual did, but we never did it again. So that caused a lot of resentment, that type of stuff that PWW is doing. So they were getting attacked all the time by a place called Macablo, by a guy named Jude Selfie. He was basically like a terrorist organization that just kept attacking PWW's people all over the world. Maracabo or something like that. Anyway, well, I ended up having a conversation with Sin after this Valeria people basically went to America, and they literally, I have a picture of this. They had a sign that says, they had like a storage room, and anybody could take anything from it, even if you weren't part of the town. It's just like, it was like, this is available to the public. So like, oh, well, it's available to the public. So Valeria literally went into the storage shed and took just about everything, and then left. And they flipped crap. So Lucas was one of the people who caught them. They were just in there, and then they just, when they saw Lucas walking, like who was in there just getting some stuff, they all just teleport out. So he was like, I can't believe they did this. I can't believe. And he's like messaging me, freaking out. So I'm like, oh my god. So I go to Valeria and I'm like, do you guys take it? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, all right. Well, they're flipping out. And they're like, well, they said it was free to take. And I'm like, I know, they're dumb. So they shouldn't have had that sign there. But Lucas is like, I gotta go there. So Lucas, I teleport Lucas into Valeria because he's with me. So we're gonna try to give him some stuff back. And then he teleports like all these bigwigs from PWW, and they just start flipping out. And then literally, I'm trying to private message like 7 people at the same time, and eventually I'm just like, Valeria, I need to voice chat you. So that we all voice chat. And what ends up happening is they basically give America their stuff back. But I eventually talked to Sin, the leader of PWW, who's a Synergal. He's the mod still on the server. We talked to him, and I was like, dude, you just gotta realize, like, your country's so big, you have a sense of entitlement. People are frustrated with you because of what you do to other people. So I could understand, like, maybe it was a bit of a low blow for Valeria to do this to you, take that crap. But one, the sign was dumb, and 2, people just don't like you guys for what you've been doing. You're invasive, you're controlling, you act like you own people. And eventually Sin felt so bad that he literally dissolved the nation like later that day. And I was like, holy crap. So that caused a lot of pandemonium, but we benefited a lot from it because we went not long after we became the biggest nation in the server. PWW would like a few days later become PI, and then eventually that was bigger than us for a little while. But after a while, things started to kind of simmer down. So, in the midst of all this, we made a new friend, Alaska, Carlum.
Oh, which I remember when they weren't our friend. Like I had a sword named Ikilak.
Oh, I was being sarcastic. We're not our friends.
I was like,
that was kind
They
of
were literally
they were
never been
not
our
our
friends.
So
It wasn't
basically-
until what was her name when there was finally a peaceful leader in Alaska?
it was some. I mean, we became friends with the guys there. They just eventually a girl took it over. I don't know her. I don't remember her. She took it over. But
She was, chill.
well, what happened was so there was a group of people from Ireland, and they were really adamant about messing with us. They actually sent a group of people over to mess with us, join our nation, infiltrate, and they liked it so much they didn't want to go back to Ireland. Inspector Hector and the other person was Fark Delicious. And they told us, like, we came here to spy on you, mess with you, but we end up. So they stayed, but another group did not. They kind of like when Ireland like kind of toned it down. They ended up still having 2 people break with Ireland, and then they just wanted to attack us. So they were literally in Levy, old Levy, a town called Levy, and they had a guy named Ikilak, and he was just running around and attacking and crap. So we all just beat the pudding out of him and just kept killing him over and over again. Well, turns out he's like an elephant and doesn't forget, because that kid would just attack us nonstop after we tried to get him to leave, and because he set shop in Alaska and he just never went away.
Yeah, I like had a sword named Ikilak just so that if I ever got the chance to kill him, it would say Ikilak was killed by Ikilak or something. But
Mhm.
Oh yeah. This is I remember there was like just a wall of spam in chat of just like this is why you don't mess with Canada or something like that.
So I do know what ended up happening though is he became like a very intense enemy.
Yeah, and he loved to raid my town and burn stuff.
Yeah, he liked to try to intimidate us. He'd fly around. Basically, all we could do is just tell people to stay in their land. But what we decided on doing was just kind of like give them a bit of a cold shoulder. It's where the whole like we learn what they want and we put pressure on them. So this would happen under RLZ, or actually I was Arcangeist that this happened with, but we'll get to that once we get there. So during this time, I started setting up the Republic. So we had a bunch of people who were kind of active, and we were kind of like talking about how we wanted to set this up. So we had people discussing at ARC who's here. We had Brendan, U2, Dime, Inspector Hector, Fark. We had quite a handful of people. Dime wasn't even using the VC back then, which was bliss. No.
It was.
No, but one thing that we did is we just got a lot of input from the community. How do we make this work? How do we make something that we'd all appreciate? So we slowly established a bit of a constitution and set up an idea of creating a government, something that will continue on for a long time. And I gotta say, everybody, it worked. I mean, 2 years. Holy freaking crap! Get a life, all of you. Jeez.
Yes.
But no, I think this is what's special is like we have old members who've been able to move on and do different things in their life, but this still exists, and new people always join, and they carry the mantle. And there's people who just kind of stick around, and they kind of help curate it and maintain it. And I think what we've made here is something very special, and something, no matter what you contributed or how much, you all can feel like I was part of this, and I'll always be part of this. Like my legacy, my impact will always be remembered because of how long this has lasted. This community, though some people have, like I said, been gone for a while, this community will always remember them, and I think that's kind of special. So it's always nice to have people come back, like Arc. Like you were literally, besides me, the other oldest, like Hoyenah. So whenever you can come back for special stuff, it's always appreciated. So thank you for dealing with the shenanigans. You just probably joined this, and I don't know these people.
I don't know, but this is
It's
Do you not
probably,
remember
but
me?
how is it? How do you feel, Arc? Like, because we're about to move into like you. So we'll be to you in a second then. So while I was leader, we ended up, the last major issue I dealt with was a people called Gold Rush, which are a bunch of dupers that set up their own town, or like a nation, and just making a bunch of money, like duped money. Well, we all attacked them and like basically like would not let them like stay here. So we put all this pressure on them, and eventually they ditched. But we got like a crap ton of money out of them. So we got a bunch of duped money from them that wasn't taken away from us. But Brendan did have, it was Dime, I believe, did have money taken away from him because the mods thought it was also part of that duped stuff. So I remember that. Never got it back.
I was very poor for a while. Poor
You
little
were.
town of dirt on the river.
Oh, the problem with the mods was Sin, the owner of PWW, was a mod. They actually had all the mods were in one of those 3 nations I mentioned earlier.
Except for
and
Sergeant.
Sergeant was in Jing.
Oh yeah, 3 nations, right.
So you had Framatosh, who I believe was a mod at the time, and it was just like
he still is.
Yeah, a lot of them don't even play that much, but yeah, we were basically the big nation without any mods. Brendan was actually our first mod. So beyond that, yeah, he was. Brendan became.
I came before him. I was a mod like a month before him. Yeah, I was.
Wait, hold on. I don't remember. He's
talking about. Oh no, I wasn't mod before him, but he didn't join before me.
Because he joined in November, you were December, but I think you were the first one from our community to become it. I do think,
I think so.
Paradox. Paradox.
I thought he was talking about Doctor Who Knows. I was like, what?
Doctor, yeah, well, he was the second. He was the second one from our community, like someone who was in the community that became mod while part of the community.
That's a good identifier. Then.
I don't know. I don't even know if Doc was black. I just know he's from New
Doc's black.
I've seen what he looks like though. He's white.
Regardless,
Really yesterday,
so from there,
Memorial.
we had a bunch of fun people that were part of the community. Greatest challenge was though, so we had this guy. So we set up the Republic. We were pretty much set. We dealt with that money issue. We had a bunch of people that were part of it. It still amazes me how many people are still part of this community who were from when I was Hoyenah, which is kind of weird. We had like Brittle. Brittle, didn't you join when I was Hoyenah?
I think I was at the very end of it. Like I got there, and like a week later, there was the election where Arcangeist was.
And Yoda, I think you were part of your. I know it's just funny because Yoda. Your story's funny because you made the Lone Blockbuster, the original one, and then Shark took it over, and then you both have been the government. It's really just like the coincidence that you both of you who own that town would eventually go on to be people in the government, and then be Hoyenah's. Like, it's really kind of funny. Something about that area, Blockbusters, I'll tell you. It's a conspiracy.
Yeah, no, even though, yeah, I think I joined at like the beginning of your month, but I left, I think before we had the elections.
Mm-hmm.
So, even though, but later I came back, I think during freshman's term, I think it's second term, which, yeah, I think I joined at the beginning of your first term, and I left at the end of your second. So
neat.
then I ended up coming back, and then now, and yeah, and a bunch of stuff happened. So
I do remember when Brendan
I
joined.
remember when Daisel was Hoyenah, but I wasn't in Canada.
Yeah, you're older than me, Echo. But I do know when Brendan first joined, he joined right around the time that the Canadian gold heist happened. So we had a town, Lumi, in Antarctica, and literally we were trying to figure out who stole this money. So for some context, we had a town in Lumi called Lumi. It was in Antarctica. They were setting up a vault. They had 3 people. 2 of them put a lot of money into it, and it would all be stolen. Well, what happens was it was Jing, and we actually have almost all the backstory. Echo was part of that. Literally, one of the people who stole money from us, part of that, literally would go on to lead the nation. What? So Echo would took part. It's kind of funny. But
yeah, which actually I would like to mention something that literally a few days prior to that, I think I went to Lumi and I ended up taking a bunch of stuff from Chess because they had their perms messed up, and then after that the whole gold heist happened, which I just didn't realize that that I mean like the that it was a town because I was like, oh, chest you can open them, so it's probably like the ruins of a fallen town or something. So I'm just going to take all the stuff that they have in these chests here. But then I gave it back after they were like, hey, why did you take our stuff? But yeah,
it was really funny because they had some people who were like, one of the people, Bleezus, who was actually owner of the town that I first joined, Manchuria, whatever the heck it was. And he gave me just like we were trying to Cabby, that's what it is. When we were first we thought it was MLG Terra. Like he had a town in New Zealand, we thought he was the one who originally stole from us. And then eventually, after like I was talking about it, like the leader of Cabby literally gave me like a whole stack of gold blocks or something stupid like it was like a crazy amount of money. Or it was a whole stack. I think it was 30 something gold blocks. And then right once Cabby gave me the money, I knew it was Jing. Like right when that, I'm like, who gives somebody that much money? I'm like, this is guilt money. He gave us our own money back. I knew it. And so after that, I knew it was Jing. And eventually I was able to pin down Lion Orion. Lion Orion, who was the one who we knew it was him. We got a name from the mods because he broke stuff. So we got a single name. I was talking to Tails. I'm like, Tails, can I talk to Lion Orion? And he's like, yeah, sure. I was like, hey, Lion Orion. And he's like, I don't know the names of the other people who stole money with me. And I was like, what? I was like, I didn't even know other people participated. You just gave me more information than I knew because you were panicking. So I was like, okay, so I'm getting this. Like, just a little tweet like a canary or something. I don't know that saying. That was a horrible version of that saying. Anyway, tweet like a canary, I guess. We say too much. That's the thing now. Anyway. Eventually we get our money back, which is a funny story because it happened once we lost money again. but we'll get to that under RLZ. So we set up our republic. We do the elections. We had back then. We didn't actually have a chat where people would post their campaigns as much as we just had them like literally put signs up in my town in a little gap of land that wasn't. So literally everybody was being pretty cancer in that. Ironically, now that's the only bit of. And I actually have photos of all those, and those are all I have left because since Runner Boy deleted the whole Discord, we lost all of our old campaigns that people made a long time ago, which is a real shame. But yeah, I've got photos of that, so I'll have to put those up at some point. Anyway, so the race would be between Arcangeist and a guy who literally was Justin Trudeau. His name was Justin Trudeau. So people who don't know politics, Justin Trudeau is literally the real world Prime Minister of Canada. So Arcangeist, who was a long-standing member of the community, who had like contributed to the development of the Republic and was like helping out the nation stuff and had a big town, was literally just versing a guy who was running off the fact that his name was Justin Trudeau and he wanted to build Ice Highway.
He almost won.
He did. He almost won. But at the same time, I think there's some meme votes in that. But Arcangeist won, and he became our first elected Hoyenah. So congratulations, that's something that you always have. So while Ark was leader, I basically just gave him the Alaska problem. So I was like, well, you get to, I'll be in the gov and kind of help out, but that is that. So Ark had quite a big plate, like a whole bunch of stuff. Fortunately, though, what was nice was Ark wasn't just some random new guy, which what Justin Trudeau would have been. The kid eventually left after he didn't win. I was like, well, but Ark had to deal with like the whole Alaska problem, which was pretty much a pain. And then he had like all of this new stuff. He had this government. We had votes. We were doing things, and eventually, he like midway through your month, you end up having like health problems or something. You had to step down. But you were the first Hoyenah to move to Canada, so you actually had to unfortunately leave Labrador to Canada, which, despite all of our best efforts, would go on to be pretty lame for a capital. We all tried so hard.
Yeah,
It was
I made it pretty decent.
It was pretty rough. Well, everything, like, we all made stuff, and then Freshman's like, I'm just gonna have a new friend come in and just destroy everything. And we're like, Fresh.
My Parliament, though. The Parliament.
You did keep that. It was a pretty outstanding building. So.
I'm pretty proud of that one.
It was a good building.
I literally finished it 2 days before my term ended. That was so worth it.
That was intense.
Down with Canada. Everything must be
How much was in the capital before Freshman destroyed it all?
I mean,
a lot.
He got rid of the house, the Hoyenah house. He got rid of one of the spawners, I believe. The giant monument, which would be rebuilt. The Parliament building.
Dime did restore the Dazel Monument.
Yeah.
That was the first
And
thing.
I
was
created a new
leveled.
in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I kept the trees. I really did a lot of effort actually on the
trees.
Oh, Freshman.
My trees.
Kept the trees. I love it. So
the trees must
not have gotten rid of the Dazel Monument.
So one thing I wanted to ask Ark, since he's here, what is your perspective, having led this massive nation at one point, and have it be so full of different people and have it continue? What are your kind of thoughts and feelings about all it?
That's pretty cool. I'm not really sure what to say. It's pretty. That's pretty cool. I haven't been keeping up with much of anything really.
You don't want to be.
Yeah,
pretty sad.
I haven't been keeping track of much. It seemed a lot more. I don't know if more manageable was the thing, but it seemed a lot. I suppose it was a lot smaller when.
Well, I think things were a bit more streamlined, and we all had like the same vision, so that kind of helped.
Even though, I mean, sorry. One thing I did want to ask is like, I guess what is, well, I mean, I guess we've already heard what's kind of happened during his term, but like,
like talking about like the political state or something, or just
oh no, I was just wondering, from Ark's point of view, what kind of happened from his term during his term as Hoyenah.
He died.
You almost died. We'll have to go, Ark. We'll have to go through like our private chats to get like some idea of what the heck we were talking about.
Yeah, sorry, 1 second. I'm trying to deal with like 3 things at once here, so I had to mute for a second. What was going on was I'm sorry. I'm sad to say, but I remember very little. It was.
Well, it looks like one of the big things was just the Carlin situation.
I got voted in. I think there was something where we had a thing with Alaska, and that was a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that ever resolved, but it didn't really resolve when I was like we allied with her like a couple weeks. Well, I don't know how long that lasted, but it was still in effect when I like dropped out. I don't know if anything ever happened with that, but
yeah, I do know it got like because right towards the bitter end of your leadership, and I think it was it was during your leadership. Because you and I basically had to work to ally with them. Because that was like your big thing is you and I, like I basically had to do a voice chat with them.
Why am I alive?
I don't know. But you and I had to work pretty intense.
Brendan.
And we ended the fight, and eventually we allied them, which was amazing because we ended up having to go to the ward day came up pretty quickly. And we were able to use that to our advantage, so they helped us. So, yeah, I remember your reign was really not that long because you had to step down, and you were also not able to get on as much. But the big situation was, if I remember correctly, it was just the Alaska thing. You moved into Canada, so you were like building there a bit.
Am I annoying?
I hate the bot. I want it to go away.
Yes. Can we server mute the bot until like Echo?
No, I love the bot. It's awesome.
When we start talking about Echo, we
unmute
can.
it for Echo.
Yeah, we'll unmute it for Echo. That's it.
So.
No, please use the bot.
Anyway, so yeah, Ark was. I mean, what was still cool about Ark's position is he was the first elected Hoyenah. So he was basically the start of a very age-old tradition, a part of a form of government that is the oldest on the server. Not only are we the oldest continuous government, but we also are the oldest republic, and no other republic even comes close, which is kind of pretty cool. But
What about Lucas's many kingdoms?
his dictatorships, light on the dictator, hard on the dick. He's pretty aggressive, but he plays an interesting story in the community. I mean, Lucas has had his ups and downs. He's been wonderful and he's been a pain. So,
I mean, just last month he had a chance of like becoming the next Hoyenah, and now he's the leader.
It's tradition at this point. Right once he's about to be the next elected person, he ditches. So, Arcangeist left. No. So, you might have had to go.
At least we covered his month.
Yeah, I was just gonna say quickly before it ended. Like one thing that he did was he passed on power, and that was a really special thing because he made sure that like that was gonna happen. So here comes the next Hoyenah, freaking 58. So the guy who got last place while running for treasurer, would go on to win Hoyenah. So it goes to show you, like anybody can do it. So 58's story is pretty interesting because you were part of Hudson Bay, and you subsequently managed to really kind of get involved, and you really stepped up to the plate because not a lot of people wanted to be Hoyenah. So you.
I think with that special election, it was me, David, and Brendan, and somebody else that were.
I wasn't running.
No, we have it in the election tab. It wasn't a lot of people who
run
were
until December.
I think there was Andreas.
I can check it quickly. It looks like there's.
You did run. You tried to run, Brendan, but then you stepped down, saying I was the better option.
I did for like a day. I think that was. And then when I think you're right. But I was never on the ballot.
I know
Stuck around
people.
for like a day.
Yeah, there's a lot
Brendan
of
was
scrolling.
the most beloved chief. Like everybody loved Brendan because he was so caring, giving.
Okay,
So
wait, I found it.
He's
Okay,
like the
so
most hated Hoyenah. Yay.
that was a lot of
okay,
fun.
the people running were RLZ, Lucas 2011, and Andreas 3921.
You beat Lucas. I love it. That's hilarious.
And that was like his first week. Like he just immediately ran for Hoyenah.
He's like, I'm entitled to this. No. Lucas, though, he's run so many times, and he always gets so close, and he leaves the nation before it happens. Is he even like here? He should probably. I mean, he's contributed if he wants to. I don't even know if he's available right now, but
You disagree a lot.
I think he's anti-V Nation at the moment.
all right. Well, it's whatever. So RLZ's leadership started out with a boom because literally like a day or two after getting appointed, we had the war day. So, and he couldn't even be there. So we were the biggest nation when I stepped down. So when I gave power to Arc, we were the biggest nation. So we were like the biggest nation the whole time Arc was Hoyenah, and RLZ took that over, and it was the biggest nation. RLZ was there.
I think I let it up to 600.
Yeah, we got. It was at its peak under. I think the highest it ever was under you, and we benefited from the fact that they weren't kicking people who weren't playing.
Y'all know that PA actually did mod abuse when they beat us in that war, right?
Oh yeah.
Like I have proof of it.
Oh, that's actually pretty interesting. I knew that there was something up because what we said is we
All
weren't
the
going
other
to
stuff
fight.
they abuse a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
We know. That's why we've always kind of bumped heads with. But
the only staff that haven't abused, I think, was me, Sin, and then 1212. Those are like stuff I can't think of that never abused.
those are two that I liked. So, and then I know for one thing that was interesting about the whole ward day was I set up my town. Everybody, we had a few people on. We had a bunch of people that actually joined Alaska because they wanted to be aggressive. So we told all the aggressive people to join them. And what ended up happening was they PI at the time. They just invaded us and attacked us. So they did a sneak attack, took us down, and they basically won war day. And they were kind of like rubbing faces. And that's all they did. They just went after us to get the points, and they didn't care about the friendship. We were trying to say we were going to be peaceful, and they said that we won't attack you, and they did that. So RLZ.
Hold up. Sorry, it's completely unrelated, but did Eagle really try to blackmail Echo? Like, what?
Yes.
Just move on from this current dilemma.
I'm sorry. I'm just like, what?
That's a separate issue if you want to talk about it. We're not in the present
It's
yet.
chronological.
We have to be 1 year and a half away from that.
We don't need to jump back and forth from the.
The only
beginning
jumping
to
around
the-
is in the month of the leader because some stuff is being jumped around. But
Yeah. We don't need to start talking about the ambassador program in the middle of RLZ's. Thing.
so okay. I don't care. Let's move on. So RLZ basically had the war day coming up, and then he also had the fact that a bunch of people stole money from the nation. So when Arcangeist became leader, we had like a bunch of different groups that wanted to leave. We had Valeria left; they wanted to do their own thing. Eventually, their nation died, and then U2 and a bunch of old players started. Like it was U2, Bear, Chip. Dime was semi part of it, but he never fully committed.
Yeah.
And they all were going to make their own nation. They were going to make some weird like oligarchy thing in New Zealand, and they made it all ugly. And then we got blamed for that.
So here's a funny story to go along with that. Nobody knew, but I was thinking about going with them, but then I decided that I'd run for Hoyenah.
Mm.
And I ended up winning. I was like, I'm not going to go with you guys now.
Well, I do know that Killer's in here too. Killer, you boobs were because you were on friends list. You were on friends, so they were able to access the chests. So they got a lot of the money. So not only did we lose a lot of money in the capital, but then we had the war day coming up. So RLZ was just like ghetto stomped while he was already like painfully suffering on the ground.
Wasn't Dime a spy for us? Something like
I
I
don't
remember him like being a quadruple agent or something. Okay, I remember you were like for informant.
We didn't ask you to do any of that though, so you just kind of being a saboteur.
As I've always said, Dime's always been loyal to Canada.
I pulled up what all they took that day. They took 64 emeralds, 64 iron, 3 diamonds, 23 emerald blocks. 64 emerald blocks, and then 48 gold blocks and 592 gold ingots.
It's a lot of money.
Rip.
So
Also, by the way,
that was it.
He's using a typewriter in the background.
So
That's probably me.
RLZ went full like. So this is one of the best parts about RLZ's leadership. So RLZ basically had to play hardball. He was playing a lot of mind games. So the first thing RLZ did was, it was basically not going to negotiate with you. I'm not going to work with you. When it came to PI, for instance, when they screwed us over, America wanted to build roads with us. They wanted to start establishing road systems and connecting. And then RLZ's like, nah, nah, I'm not going to do that. And the reason why is because, and I was talking to him about it, and this was funny because Doc, who we thought was at least, he was the one who took part in the war day. He was an influential factor, even if he doesn't take credit for being the planner of the assault on us. He then was trying to patch up relationships with us. And the thinking between RLZ and I and leadership, the chiefs at the time, were, okay, why should we reward him? If he was the one who planned the attack out and actually did attack us, then by giving him the opportunity, making him fix the relationship and making things would only make him look more competent. Not only can he screw over an ally, but he can fix the relationship. So we went cold turkey, or cold turkey. We gave him cold shoulder. We went cold turkey. We basically quit. I know, but we gave him a cold shoulder.
They had a full Discord for it, and I was like, you know what? I'll just keep saying, yeah, we'll vote on it.
When they wanted us to merge or something.
Democracy is beautiful. Well, we none of us wanted to work with them after that, so basically they got screwed over. And then America, when California fell, Charlie's California, because he got banned for duping armor.
I remember when he got banned.
Yeah, Alaska worked with us, and we basically raided the whole city with Alaska helping us, and Alaska just attacked everybody from America all the time. So they were getting really stressed out and irritated by the situation, and eventually they just asked RLZ, hey, can we join you guys? So we were like, holy crap, because this would be a huge change in policy, because we've tried to respect the border between the US and Canada, like IRL borders, but when that came, RLZ is like, well, you can speak for yourself, but you were like, well, let's do a vote.
Yeah.
We voted, and for the following month, November, and they got in, I think it was November 1st. So they asked in October, late October, and they got voted in November.
So the literal town of America joined Canada.
Yes. Favorite timeline. So, and then they'd have two influential members, which would be Rojo and Doc. We'll get to them later. So, RLZ, if I remember correctly, you managed to, once PI because PI fell apart under your leadership as well. So PI collapsed after America left. It was dud. And then with U2's situation, if you want to explain that, because they fell apart too, but they went inactive and they couldn't get things together. But you were basically never working with them as well and making it hard and calling them out. And they stopped liking each other.
The day I had figured out, so when I got back from whatever I was doing that weekend, and noticed that gold and stuff was all gone because Blast had it labeled, and I was always checking on that chest because it had over 2,000 gold in it. And I saw that it was gone, so immediately I think I got Sergeant over SGT to go inspect the chest. Figured out who it was. And then I just kind of went all detective on U2's ass, and he started blaming. He was like, oh yeah, my sister got a hold of my account and stuff. I got all the screenshots somewhere.
It was very awkward.
Finally, he just admitted to doing it. Hey, I just found all those screenshots.
Put that in record keeping.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, because they were getting frustrated with each other, then people are dropping out, and then because they wanted the old players to have like a special republic relationship, they wanted to be able to make a country where old players were always in charge, and it's sort of like they own districts, it should be their towns, and the problem with it is that there was too much infighting, and they stopped having the interest, and it fell apart. But that situation didn't help. I think if they didn't steal the money and they just kind of did, I think they would have been better off. But I think when they stole the money, it was just bad. Well, what's funny about the whole situation too, though, is Jing. So Lion Orion, the one who stole the money, he'd pay us back, and because the money that was stolen was by Bear and you two, when they paid Canada back, we just kept it. We never gave it to them because they're like, well, you stole our money. So they gave us a portion of the money back, you two and them. But we ended up just keeping the money from the line Orion gave us. We just put it back in the
Bear? Who joined New Zealand? I can't remember. The Bear?
Bear never. He was part of it and he was working with them, but he never actually got to make it in town. Then there was Killer, who's in the chat right now. There was you two, Chip. That's 3. There was 5 in total though. The Bear would have been the other one, and I think Dime was supposed to be the 5th, but Dime never joined. And Bear never made the town. And then when it was
they had people from Hawaii join.
Oh, that's right, Fiji.
Was it Fiji?
I think it was Fiji.
Yeah, Fiji was.
It was whoever MOB mod was in.
Yeah, Fiji.
Yeah, Fiji. There's a
mod.
Because they wanted to join us, and we're like, we're just gonna stay in North America. Because it was under 58 that whole policy shift happened. So we went from just Canada to like North America, and we made that like a constitutional change.
Still that to this day.
Yeah, well, no, we've kept to that. So but it was under my leadership. So under my leadership, we created the to challenge PWW. We created a system that we were going to try to make in like stable regional governments around the world. So we were inviting people in, but the problem is they weren't actually going on to make governments. They just stayed in our nation because they liked their community too much. Like Doughboy in England, we could never get rid of him. And we told them after we changed the policy, we're like, if you leave though, you can never come back. So we'll keep you here. Your grandfathered in, but if you leave, you can't come back. But that's also how Movies got into our community, because Movies' town was in Africa. So Movies, Crefter, and his friend joined through that. Doughboy joined through that. And I think there was Trickaroo in South America joined through that, but they ended up moving up. A few people moved here. But yeah, that kind of happened, and Doughboy was the last one standing. I still think they're part of our town, our nation, in the old server, which is kind of funny.
Actually, they're still part of the nation in the new server as well, which they're still with us. So.
Doughboy came with us. So
yeah,
58. You kind of had a lot happen, but you basically under your leadership there was a lot of policy and like change around like where we grew and stuff. So that was pretty cool. Anything of note that you remember that you want to talk about?
Did we go over the United Coalition that David started up underneath my role?
That was pretty empowered. That was massive. Yeah, you can talk about that a bit. Reasons.
I don't really honestly remember much about it. Just
it became
David kept wanting to make it.
I wish he was here. He could talk about it. But he created a coalition, which is basically a server that was very politics centric. So it was a place where all the nations. Yeah, it functioned like a UN, but it was a server dedicated to political dialogue rather than just kind of like the memery and goofs and gaffs that are in the Earth MC Discord. It was pretty much
themselves too seriously.
You get that sweet role play. People who love like all that crap. So, so from there, when we had the election, and then Brendan, who was the beloved chief, decided he's like, I guess I'll run, and he didn't even want to run. There was a lot of competent people, but you stepped to the plate.
think I kind of guilt tripped him into that one.
Yeah, you did. I really did not want to run.
Well, one of the
So I guess
things.
it's my time to
Now
talk.
Brendan is guilt tripping RLD for guilt tripping
So
him.
basically, I either had to just sit by and let James win or Lucas win. We all know it would not have been a good thing, so kind of pressured into running. And yeah, not fun. I really didn't want to run, but I really was happy staying chief because I remember Daisel originally he talked me out of running in the special election. He told me that I was better off staying a beloved chief and just being there to make sure democracy transitions smoothly. And we all know how well it turned out when I did run for Hoyenah.
Well, it started out well. I think the issue with your situation is, it's just you got a very colorful group of people that got into the government. So you had Lucas, who was very simple, small government. Even that's why he flipped out recently again and left. He's just like, nothing gets done. I can't stand the Constitution. He's like, this Constitution's never a problem before, and I was like, it's always been there since you've been in the government, buddy. But Lucas, during your leadership, you guys got in a bit of a fight because you two were like freaking like cats, territorial cats. Like one would say a little something, the other would say a little something, and you just get a little bit more angry, full blown. Eventually, Lucas is like, "Screw it! I'm making the American Empire in Canada," and we're all like, "What?" So,
and that wouldn't be the first time he would do it.
He's literally left our nation, or he's joined our nation 6 times and left our nation 7. No, joined 6, left 7. How does it work?
How can you join more times than how can you leave more times than you joined?
That's what I'm trying to.
Because he's left recently.
Yeah, so he hasn't joined back. So he's left. Whatever. Either way, it's like 7 and 6.
He'll be back eventually.
Yeah, once he realized that
King George, you'll be back.
I have disbanded over 25 nations, and I have started like 21 nations. I am proud of that. Actually, I'm not proud of that, but
you probably led more nations than any other individual person ever, because you. Well, here's the thing about Brendan. So Brendan ended up finding a crap ton of money under his town, which is part of the whole Hudson Bay wealth thing. So his town got big, and he was helping a lot of people. So
it had like 200,000 gold under it.
He had a lot of popularity. He was helping people out. He was one of the big forces behind the giving economy too. And that money really did help us out a lot. Like we could have done things without it, but it really made things like the giving economy super easy. So what ended up happening is he got elected leader, and he wanted to kind of like work with the government, since a lot of people enjoy the government, a lot of political types were there, and he had been involved. So you started to try to add positions into the government and stuff that seemed convenient at the time. But what ended up happening is you had Lucas, who did a lot of pushback, and some people were like, I don't know about that. And it just became like a huge drama fest because little personal squabbles blew up and became like personal fights. And then I think
I had a lot of stuff. I had like a lot of stuff going on in real life with my family and stuff, which is kind of going on because I've been a lot worse.
Did the thing with Griff happen while you were Hoyenah?
I think that was in November, but that whole thing when my brother like basically like died and then came back to life because like long story thing, really long story, but that I don't want to talk about it. But that sort of like part of my family, it's genetic that there's depression underlying, and like it's a genetic thing, like, and then that kind of activated mine, and it just started popping up, and I never experienced it before, and I know how to handle it. So
well, you under your leadership too, you also had DJ and Conman, so they stressed you out, and you also and basically you had the old community that you cared for. You had a handful of people that just gave you like stress up the wazoo. And the thing is you were like you didn't have many foreign diplomatic issues because I don't remember, it was mostly all domestic. Like a lot of the stress was just the community changing.
I had
and
one fight with proving.
That's right, proving unique.
Everything else, I was very good at diplomacy. Like paper probably attest to this, that diplomacy and foreign policy is like my strong suit. Like I always focused. Like I got along very well with Germany. Probably because paper and I have a good friendship.
Well, I do know under your leadership you had DJ, who was very adamant about the government being a certain type of way, and then you had Lucas, who was very like, so you had people pulling you on all these sides. Lucas was like super small, tiny government, no new positions, and just do. Then you had all these new people that were joining all of a sudden, who were very vocal, and like, we got to add all these positions, we got to do this. So you were caught in the middle of that. You got stressed, and eventually you get to points where you just weren't enjoying the nation. I think your big issue was eventually, like, when you became mod, is once you found a community that you felt comfortable with, because the game became very serious for you. This was like your sole source of like interacting with people.
Like,
yeah, like when something didn't go right, it became all the more stressful because like I want this
it was
environment.
like my entire life was just getting messed up, and then it was a personal attack to me in the game was a personal attack to my character in the real world, which it stung. Like,
so with that, you only lasted you were Hoyenah for a month, and then you gave power to Benjamin, which is really interesting. So Benjamin of America, the town America got elected in. They had put forward a person, and we had a conversation with them. Like, you guys are a big town, don't overwhelm our government. And Doc was there. So while Brendan was leader, he had Doc, Lucas, and I don't know if he had 5 or 3.
I had 5. It was Lucas,
David, Doc,
David, and I'm trying to think. Brittlewood at one point, I remember. Because I remember that she was my personal secretary, and when
I think she was a secretary. I don't know if she was the actual.
No, she became a chief at the end of my term when Lucas left. And I remember that when I had to leave for personal absence.
Oh, so she moved up.
She was like my replacement secretary. Like she was like a temporary sort of like emergency thing. And like I was a lot more effective. I was much more effective as a chief, I feel like, than I was as a Hoyenah.
I think you do a great job amplifying other people's works. I think once you were kind of put in charge and you had all these people, I think you're too much of a people pleaser, that you were trying to please too many people and you stressed yourself out. Yeah. So that's why I think you do a great job amplifying other people's works. You got stressed out. Well, when you stepped down, we had Benjamin, the no play Hoyenah, as I like he maybe logged in to play the game. Less than 10. Someone's breathing into their mic.
That's probably me.
It's like a wind.
Mute that. So when Brendan stepped down, Brendan became mod in the last few days, and we had like, because of our positions of being screwed over by mods, we're like, you can't be mod and Hoyenah at the same time. So
actually, mods never. I specifically asked Vix if I was allowed to be mod at the same time as Hoyenah, and he said it was fine. But you guys.
Well, no. It's not like an in-game. Like, we didn't. The server doesn't say that you can't be a mod and a leader of a nation. We, as a community, did not want that because we saw the amount of power that it gave other people, and we just didn't like that degree of invasion of privacy that's capable. So, yeah, we didn't want the leader to be a mod. But Doc would go on to become the next Hoyenah, and Doc. So after Brendan stepped down, he was really stressed out. He was still part of the community for a few days, but things were just like really hectic. So Doc won. He was the first person that was like not leader of a town, and the only one, I think, thus far to ever become Hoyenah. Every Hoyenah was a leader of a town. So okay, cut the breathing thing out. It's annoying.
Yes.
I joined the. I became mod on December 20th. Conversation Vix. How would you feel about being moderator, Vix? I would be very interested. Great, I think you'd be up to the task.
Come on.
When it would take effect. Stay out of debates regarding server politics in order for staff to appear unbiased. Would you be willing to do that? That the same way the justice system is involved in politics.
Well, I mean, there's the story, and I can understand. Like, the problem was not Fix. I don't give a crap about Fix. He's not part of our republic. We didn't want mods part of it because mods do have capabilities, and we didn't like Sin was a mod. We had to deal with mods, and it became a taboo. So we didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I tried to help.
Okay, it's Eskimo. Eskimo, mute yourself.
Mute myself?
Yeah, just mute yourself, and if you want to chime in, feel free. Like, there's all the background noise. Eskimo's the current Hoyenah, everyone. So, yeah, we'll move on because this is gonna take a while. We're already an hour and a half in, so we're only
4 Hoyenahs in.
Oof. So from there we go to Benjamin. Benjamin was the 1 month Hoyenah as
Also, I
well.
would like to point out that that Lucas once again got second place against Benjamin.
Yes. I think he left during that because I think he went. No, he left after he lost to David because he.
Guys, don't use the bot lol.
Just server muted people. It's not
Server muted.
Yo,
Server
anyway.
muted until its echoes turned to.
So anyway,
The problem is Echo can also unserver.
I did not want to become Hoyenah in December because I was still getting over like stuff with my brother and everything, family stuff completely unrelated, and just like. What I really wanted to do was I wanted to run either in February or January, and then become a 2-term Hoyenah, and then retire as like a Supreme Court justice or as like a back as a chief. That was my plan. I did not.
But that whole fiasco with Clucky, the fake Clucky, happened under your leadership.
Yeah, what happened with the Supreme Court?
I think it did.
I think it was under your leadership because I know we created.
We're getting sidetracked.
A bunch of new positions. Well, that's an important story too.
Well,
get you.
Well, I mean, this is the stuff that we didn't cover from the previous map.
I remember banning James for that.
James was part of. Okay, I don't really care.
I think apparently he's that one kid or something like that.
James was really close friends with Clucky. Like when I became Hoyenah and I wasn't doing things,
faked it.
Like said, why aren't you? That's not what Clucky did. I was like, why aren't you doing what Clucky did? But James, like, so we made it a Supreme Court justice position, which was going to be given to past Hoyenahs, and I think that was under you, Brendan.
Yeah, it was.
So that would be like an example of like one of the government positions that we made. Well, what happened was James made a fake Clucky account with Clucky's blessing, and he got into the government and he made himself a position. And then there was a person named Brooklyn Tony who was giving him a hard time. And then the fake Clucky account was really James. So the Brooklyn Tony gave James a hard time. And then the Clucky account, which was owned by James, but we didn't know, was all of a sudden super aggressive and defensive towards James. Like, we got to do something about this. So that was weird. And then Clucky swore once, and Clucky, IRL Clucky, like, never swore. He was like the whole, you did a vote whether we could swear in the Discord. Like, so Clucky never swore. So what ended up happening is he ended up kind of getting everybody suspicious, and the bear basically caught on to it and then exposed the whole thing.
And then
and then eventually we just got rid of the position. And that was just like one more stupid thing that happened under Brendan that just made it more stressful and blah.
Yeah, and I had to do it as
Basically, in
well.
summary, James was Clucky, hate Clucky.
So I had to remain unbiased while also biased at the same time.
Okay.
The whole thing was just stressful.
Yeah, so we'll move on. And so with that, I think that's the majority of the. And most of the issues were pretty domestic. Like, we didn't actually have a lot of foreign. We were the world power. We were still one of the biggest, if not the biggest. I know Russia sneaked in at some point. I don't know if it was under you, Brendan. I think it was, but.
What was it?
Russia becoming the top dog. I think that was under you or Doc.
That was bad and good. I used part of my foreign policy as leader was to play people against each other. That's what I based it off the model I use against Renute and Charlie. I basically pinned Charlie and Renute against each other for months because
I remember that too. Eventually, Charlie.
So they could cede me that land. The whole thing was just a long, complicated system.
Okay, but we gotta move on because we can sidetracked. So Doc became leader. It was after a stressful time. The government was like really over. And basically, what Doc did is he started Fireside. So, in that time, he basically, I keep saying basically a lot, but I'm gonna. He was every weekend. He would let everybody in the nation talk to him and say, "Hey, what's on your mind? What do you think we need to do? What problems do you foresee? What's your issue?" And he did a great job. Basically, he took a huge like there was a lot of drama, a lot of strife, and he was able to kind of like calm everybody down and be like, you know what, let's just work on this together. So Doc was like a talker. He was, like I said, he almost never logged on. He almost always just stayed in the Discord, but he had a soothing aspect of his personality. But he had like a military. He was in the military background. Oh, he was
background.
So he
And
Stern. He was very strategic. I mean, there were issues that we had to deal with Spain because Spain stuff was slowly like creeping up at that point. And then he was very hardball. Like, I'm not going to them. I think he kind of learned from RLZ and I's situation. But his reign was just a month. So when he stepped down, he kind of slowly faded into the background, didn't play as much. But he was pretty important about re-stabilizing. Well, during his leadership, Brendan left the nation. Yeah, well, Brendan left the nation during his leadership. So they had a private chat with all like the mostly mods and like a Devi and a few other people. And Doc, who is Hoyenah, was also in that. So he was kind of like in this weird, like, he was leader of our nation, but he was also with kind of like that group. And Doc, when he stepped down from Hoyenah, he became a mod as well. So he was a mod for like a month. Well, he was active a month after he stepped down. And he was able to kind of like there was a lot of issues with Brendan were starting to pick up because Brendan was really stressed by like people like DJ, Artie, Conman, and there was just people he didn't care about David. And what happened was there was a lot of stress, and you were starting to put a lot more pressure on us, and you split, and we tried to set a border up with you, and I think that was under David. Doc. Yeah, no, you split under one of them. No, when David became a Hoyenah, you left.
What happened was, I would meme leave like a day. I'd make the Confederation of Ontario, and then Dime and Lucas would all join me, and every bunch of people would just randomly just join me.
Well, that was like
isolated event. I would disband about an hour later, and then I would make a new nation. I'm sorry. You kept wanting me. I felt so bad because you kept wanting me to keep it.
So
the thing is, I didn't actually want to have to be leader of another nation.
Okay, I don't care. I want to keep moving on, guys. Like, if you want to do, you just gotta move on.
We don't need to get into a debate about the ambassador program.
I wanted to talk about the history, add a little bit, but I don't want to like cover too much about everybody's individual story. Otherwise, it becomes too obnoxious. So, moving on. David became Hoyenah. He is thus far, as of current, the longest serving Hoyenah. He was Hoyenah for 3 months. I think it's Freshman who's making all these like background sounds. So mute yourself, Fresh. David's first month was basically dealing with Brendan the entire time. So David had, he was in Canada. He was working on trying to kind of like get things done in the government, working on road systems, working on a lot of stuff. But most of his time was spent dealing with like Valkyria, I think is what they call themselves. Yeah. And so there was a lot of like fights. He had to constantly micromanage DJ Conman. It was getting very exhausting. And so people stopped playing as much. Like that month, like his first month was extremely dead, mostly because he was essentially constantly having to micromanage all these people. Well, Red Newt would join us under him, and then all of a sudden the tables were switched where we were always supporting Brendan against Red. Then we had to support Red against Brendan because the border
Red Newt joined me. Under me or you? I thought he joined.
He joined under David.
No, I could have sworn he joined earlier than that. Really?
I do not believe so. No.
Here, let's check. I'm gonna check. I remember him joining in November though.
Okay, I don't care. I knew he later on his point. What matters is that he switched around sides and we were supporting him and not you. Anyway, so this is kind of like the more stressful time during the nation. David got reelected, and then the whole nation was like revitalized. So I believe within David's actually first month, I should have mentioned this, there was a war day, and that was the war we should have won. Like no, I think that was the second month.
No, second month.
That was second month because that's when you joined. So second month, like David had the war day, and the whole nation was actually hyper revitalized. Everybody was just like standing up, and we made a huge, massive battle plan, and it was pretty awesome. We basically were winning like dramatically. Dime actually had the most points because he killed Australia, and then the server kind of crashed, and they refused to give it to us despite us being magnitudes ahead, and it was suspicious and irritating. But we didn't win, but we knew we were winning, so kind of a bummer. But at that time we were also dealing with the Brendan situation, which got to its peak, and then by the end of the month, and we were also dealing with Spain at the same time. So Spain, David had to put a lot of pressure on Spain. We were claiming towns in the Cuba and Mexico, and they felt entitled to territories. So David had to work with a lot of negotiations of that. Well, the second month ended with basically David and I take a stand, like we're leaving. I had to say I'm done to get Brendan out because we couldn't get the mods to do anything about it, and it was like a very fragile, complex situation. But I was like, you guys gotta do something about this. And I talked to Fix, and eventually everything was kind of like pushed forward, and I was like, I stepped down, I became a lot less active, and the mods kind of like got Brendan to step back, and he stopped. And that was
it would be better for my mental health if we quit.
so. The following month, I wasn't really all out there. Neither was David. I think David was just so stressed out from having to deal with the ridiculous complexities of the Brendan situation, constantly making new nations, constantly attacking, having to constantly deal with that. He destroyed the Panhandle in Michigan. There was just all of his
Panhandle. It's the Upper Peninsula.
The Upper Peninsula, whatever. He had to constantly deal with Brendan, and I think you definitely he was just a kid himself. A lot of people joined this just to have fun, and basically we're all playing Dr. Phil, and it was very complicated for a bunch of kids to deal with that. I was capable, but I think it really drained David, who was also trying to do a lot of things. He had big visions. He actually stepped down from the thing that RLZ was talking about, the United Coalition, to be Hoyenah, because there was a big controversy about if he had too much power at that point. Should he be able to run the coalition and be the leader of Canada? So he stepped down. That died because he became Hoyenah. So his passion project died. He all of a sudden was dealing with the nation. He had to deal with Brendan. He had to deal with stuff. It was draining. So he got reelected for the third month, and he wasn't there all that much. So, and I got stressed out Fresh, who got elected as a chief then. And I remember when you were running Fresh, we also had to be like, don't let your town take over the servers. Well, we had to have an America talk with you. And then when that month kind of dragged on, there wasn't really a lot that happened. I remember a lot, but Fresh
basically left again, make Masonia. That's about the only major thing I can.
Well, and then Fresh was elected, so now we're in the Fresh's reign. Fresh basically had very little. David wasn't there all that much. I wasn't there all that much, and he basically was given this massive nation, a literal republic, and he had to breathe life back into it. So he did. He was in the Discord all the time, and basically Fresh was the Hoyenah who was like the breath of fresh air that the nation really needed. Someone not really tied to the old politics, brand new. He was like only 2 months in the nation at the time, and he was in the Discord all the time, always in the VC, always trying to talk to people, always trying to be there. He was redoing the whole capital, which really was enthusiasm. He had a lot of enthusiasm, which people needed. Vision. He wasn't tied down. So, Fresh, you had the rise of MLG start towards the end of your leadership, but the majority of your leadership, I think, you had to deal with Spain.
I had to deal with Spain and Justinian, or not Justinian, the stupid situation with
the Roman Empire in North America.
Yeah, the Roman Empire in North America.
Roman Empire in Northern Canada.
That's right. So they ended up making a republic, which didn't work out very well. And they let us actually. We had a weird.
In Northern.
Myles would take over them eventually.
I actually, it was first me, and then I gave the town to Myles.
Oh.
I came back, and then like a day later, like this guy was saying, I'm going to give my town away to some person in Canada, and I was like, I just rejoined. I need a town. Can I take it?
Gave to Yoda.
Weird. I'm sensing a weird conspiracy between Myles, Yoda, and Shark, because there's all this town flipping between the three of them, and they all became Hoyenah eventually. So I sent.
And actually, we all became Hoyenah back to back. We were the first 3 Hoyenahs in Terra Nova.
I sense a conspiracy.
Because he will find collusions everywhere. Next thing you know, he'll be going on about how 270 really was
Well, you see,
created in
Echo
the
Ocelot
1950s as a
really
game by.
did. Well, you see, it all started with Mr. Clucky 123.
Let's we'll get back to you
Anyway,
guys.
let's keep moving because Yoda can go on about
Speaking
this
of
forever.
Maine,
Okay.
Yeah,
Speaking
speaking of me.
So,
Speaking of me.
Fresh, you had all like, I mean, you had a lot. Like, I was trying to actually find some good things, like facts to talk about for
is my gender.
the Hoyenah. The Hoyenah thing was added on the wiki, so I got to get some good like facts.
Yeah, I mean, Fresh. Did you just want to explain it?
Fuck that. Fuck those.
Don't debate and draft.
God, debate and draft is different. That was difficult. It's very different wanting this democracy because it's a very lot of checks and balances as much as you don't believe so. And that's like the number one thing you learn when you become Hoyenah was it's not simply your way or the highway. That was the hardest lesson to learn, kind of.
With Dime. I remember you were so stressed out and mad with Dime because Dime was doing all this stupid crap.
Yeah, that one was a whole fucking stupid scenario. Even though me and Dime like each other now, but we've also
Can
learned.
I comment on that?
What? That wasn't you over.
Well, no, wait. I was there at the end.
That was the end.
California joined
Wasn't
during
I?
his reign as well.
Oh yeah, and I rejoined.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like I had a little bit too the stress at the end.
Kind of. You want. I was done at that point.
So, Jag, did they join towards the end of freshman, or did they join at the beginning of Shark?
Beginning of June. Beginning of June.
Roho
Actually.
next, but I do know because it was Roho then Shark.
You want?
No,
Yeah, it was my second term, beginning of June. A lot of
it was Fresh, Shark, then Roho, right, and then Owen.
Yeah. Fresh had 2 terms, then Shark had 1 term, and then Roho had 1 term.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
a lot of people joined under me that became Hoyenahs. Myles joined in April, but I credited him to me.
I
rejoined.
Yoda joined.
We all know Roho's term ended practically at the inauguration.
I mean, should we maybe go a bit more in depth into freshman's term before we go?
Well, I
into
do
Roho?
know freshman's term had the first time, and Brendan tried to come back. Firmly established. Sorry, Brendan, you can't come back.
Why?
No.
I want to come back.
It's not that. The reason why is because we didn't want to ever have that type of situation ever happen again, and it was just easier to be like, we're gonna have to play cold turkey on that.
When I was Hoyenah
Cold turkey. I don't know why.
Isn't it cold shoulder?
It's cold shoulder. I should just say we had to be adamant on it.
I feel like it's more cold turkey.
Freshman was like, if you ever let Brendan back, I will literally murder you.
Yeah.
We had to take a stand because we were worried about that situation ever happening again, and I was worried for Brendan, but I was also worried for other kids. Like there's a lot of people who play just kids, and I just think the situation got too serious, and I was worried, and I was like, I genuinely enjoyed my time with Brendan, but I don't think the environment is going to be able for him for a long time. So there was that. We also had U2. He came back a bit.
Yeah.
Hey, little Timmy, do you want to run for Hoyenah?
Why does freshman want me back for personal reasons or for reasons?
No.
Freshman was convinced by a bunch of us. So freshman had no idea what was going on. First, he was okay with it, and then we were all like, "You probably shouldn't."
You sat in a phone call with Dazel for 3 hours, pretty much tearing his heart out about saying Brendan can't be back. You get a strong opinion about that.
More successful at brainwashing than Kim Jong-un. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single Hoyenah gets.
It
sat
took you
down by
3
Daisy
hours. It
and
took
they
him a
have to
few
bring it
years.
off.
And I just wanted to say the funny part about U2, because U2 came back, but U2 literally set up MLG in freaking Mexico.
Yeah.
So, oh my god. So U238 not only took money from us, he lost money from us, he took money from us, then he gave us the blame for the crap that he did to New Zealand. So MLG was mad at Canada for New Zealand. We didn't do that. It was you. And then he put MLG in freaking Mexico. So basically,
didn't he go on to get elected as the chief or something?
MLG never gonna like this chief.
No, I'm talking about
YouTube.
Oh,
Yeah,
YouTube got
YouTube was the
reelected,
chief.
yeah.
He was the chief for a while.
He left though after the MLG thing, which is probably for
Yeah.
the better because thanks to. So, and then we move on to Sharky Poo. So Sharky got a lot done in his.
Are we skipping over the MLG thing then?
That's literally mostly under Shark.
Freshman did a lot of it.
Shark did nothing of it. I raised all. I raised all the gold. I put up the 2 towns.
I mean, Shark resolved it, but I think most of it happened under Freshman.
The Freshman was trying nice cop. You were trying a lot of
It was like that refugee crisis with Jimmy
Freshman was
Carter.
bad cop.
Freshman was bad cop, but he tried to be kind at first, just work it through.
Oh my God, there's dolphins.
Yes.
Me steal dolphin?
I did not know there's dolphins in my.
Okay, I don't care. You goofs. Yes. So, yeah, we were trying to like negotiate and work things through with him. I can't remember the actual cause for him to leave. Like something happened.
Mate, if you want to see a dolphin, go to Australia, go to a
The
beach,
reason-
you'll see a shark eating.
The reason MLG left was he didn't have enough freedom to kill.
Oh, that's right.
So he didn't have enough freedom to kill people, so he respectfully left because he didn't have that. He didn't have that innate ability. So he's like, I can't do that here, so I'm gonna leave.
Mm-hmm.
And he left under good terms.
Now
Actually,
I own now I own Mexico and all the towns that are in the southern.
Wait a second, MLG was in the nation?
Yes.
What?
He left, and then shortly afterwards, he was like, "Give me the West Coast, please."
And to Florida. He's like, give me Washington State all the way down, all the border states to Florida. And we're like, no. So here's where Owen and Jag like pop in to make sure ML Jared can't hurt the kid. So
It sounded like you just called him ML Jared.
ML Jared can't hurt the kid.
Basil, I got this. Let me.
Okay, so
let me
you
explain
can talk
it from
about
here.
this. Okay. Well, I mean, we got to talk about sharks too, but this is you and sharks, so you guys can talk about that.
Yeah, alright, Shark, let's do this. So, basically, what happened was I was actually part of Suterica. I was a very dedicated member of the communist nation. But the problem was, I was seeing no benefits. I was getting royally screwed by the state. So, I, of course, being the clever fellow I am, attempted to start a coup in Suterica. That
this was beautiful.
failed. But immediately after that, I messaged Freshman and I joined Canada. And so, what happens then is I'm pretty much next month, like 2 weeks later, I'm made Secretary of the Interior. And let me explain something that was happening at this time was Project STD, which was basically two megatowns
disease
on the southern border, which were Alamo and what was the other one called? Arizona. Arizona.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. That
Yeah.
was epic. We went through
And
it,
I
marking all the
Everybody
territory.
donated gold. And
Yeah, no, I was end hopping like
perfect
crazy.
explanation for this. The perfect
There were some very
explanation
good
for this
YouTube
is
videos that
the,
came out of it.
Yes.
we haven't even reached Rojo's turn.
Rojo comes after this. Rojo comes after this.
Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't even explained Shark's term, and I don't think we fully explained Freshman's term yet. So.
Yoda.
Yeah.
I'm explaining my time as Secretary-in-Chief. So,
Okay,
basically,
we're going to get
I was from the beloved town of Atlantis, which was
Yeah,
middle of
that's
the
the
Pacific. We'll get to
progress.
that later.
We don't care about you as chief.
But what happened was, I spearheaded the railroad project. Like, Rojo, I'm sorry, but you're kind of shit at building railroads. I'm the one who got the railroad thing done in the South.
What about airports?
Fuck off.
Okay,
I
okay,
connected
wait.
all
We're getting off
the
topic.
center of the country.
Oh, and could you maybe explain this one as your Hoyenah thing?
No, we need to do Shark first.
Yeah, and Rojo.
So Shark had a deal with both MLG and Spain, which was the funniest thing. So Spain was like, I still have a part in Mexico, and basically, like us and like MLG were like, no. So we were like cutting deals.
Whose term was I military leader in? I
So-
forget.
Not sure.
That was
Well, the funny part was when we created the border, our agreement with Spain is we'd never take Mexico. So when we lined the border the way we did, we not only didn't break our agreement with Spain, but we also forced MLG to like give up. Like once we found out his weakness, which was the whole Alaska thing. I didn't even mention this before, but under Arcangeist, when we put pressure on Alaska, we basically found that they were really uptight about towns being near them and claiming territory, so they flipped out and spent all this money to try to push us out. So once we knew that what their sole desire was land, if we could attack them on that front, we could screw them over. So actually, the first the border walls that we did was not the first project like that. The first time that ever happened was actually under Arcangeist, and we put a town called by Cherry Pone. So there's the town by Cherry Pone that was named after some Native American thing there, and I think you probably remember Cherry. Some people here. Cherry Pone basically did what a smaller version of Operation Manifest Destiny in Alaska. So that idea, once we knew MLG was super uptight, and like Jag showed up and he's like, I want you guys to work with me, and we're like, you guys just do what you want. And then he was like, all entitled, like all the new towns have to join me. And we're like, well, what if they don't want to join you? And he's like, they have to join me. And he's like, I have to talk to them first. You can't talk to them at all. And he was getting all butthurt over. So
don't forget Tito.
And of course, that brings up why we built the railroad.
The Tito.
The reason the railroad was built, so that we could have legitimate claim on that land.
It's almost like California stayed in a coma for a while and then came back and they're like, no, this is how I remember it.
Yeah, like literally, we visited it earlier today.
Oh yeah, so you can go on EMC Classic while in the queue for Terra Nova now.
Okay.
You do /Q join Classic, and then when you're in Classic,
No,
do
it's /join Q, not Q join.
Sorry, and then /join Q Townie for Terra Nova while you're in Classic.
Booby.
So, Shark, talk about your term.
Well,
actually, did we even finish with Freshman's term?
No one cares about that.
Yes, we did.
Okay, if we did, let's keep going.
Freshman's watch has never ended.
My term was mostly taken up with having to talk to people who were in good old Ceterica. Cough, cough, Serenal. I know Freshman did a lot of talking too. I had to do a lot of talking as well. Maybe less fun. And then we also sort of had to deal with the staff and making sure that the staff didn't recognize the whole claim wall in Alamo and stuff as claim blocking. Because, they were kind of very feisty about that. Yeah, Terra was screaming from the top of the hills that we claim blocked him. So we had to try and put a stop to that. We did actually win. That's why the towns are still there. But we did suffer some losses. I remember us losing some of New Orleans claims. And John owed us gold, but we never got gold back. So fuck John. He's the worst staff member, aside from Eagle and everyone else.
Am I a worst staff member ever?
You're not a staff member anymore, so I'll give you a pass.
Was I at one point?
Well, you see, I was too much of a noob back then to really care about you being a staff member. Anyway, so... and also, don't forget the amount of llama stealing crap that happened that month. There was a lot of that. Panda was a joy to deal with.
Oh my god, there are turtles.
If you
at least the stuff that happens today doesn't involve Panda.
Yeah, I mean, at least it doesn't involve Panda. It still involves the same people, but I mean, it doesn't involve Panda.
Baby turtle. Baby turtle.
Okay, Brandon, being a goof. Quit interrupting.
Sorry, I didn't
Jesus,
know there's turtles.
that baby turtle did not give you consent.
Yes, it did.
Pedophile.
Got
9/11.
I remember that campaign speech. That was questionable. So it was, eventually Serenal decided to join us. People had mixed feelings on that, as was reflected by the vote to let him in, but he got in, and he did actually do some stuff in our community.
Well, what the
He was a chief for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically a little bit of a summary of what happened in my month. I think it was one of the last months to have the inauguration recorded for a little while. I think, could be wrong. I mean, I know Rojo did, but I don't know how much happened after that. So
Dime recorded Wohos from a great perspective.
Oh yeah, which Rojo? Okay, so are we moving on to Rojo?
did kind of
No,
kill
we're not
Rojo.
done with Shark yet, you goof.
Well, what else should I say?
Well,
you guys had some fun, maybe.
With the wall, basically, we squished MLG out because when we found out what he wanted was land, and that he didn't have fun anymore, and he left. But we never made the monument, so I told Jag he's got to make the monument for that.
Oh, yeah,
and
I
we
did
never
see that.
did it.
I commissioned you to design it. You designed it pretty well, but we never built it.
Yeah, I made a design for the monument, and I had a plot in the capital that I was supposed to build it, but I never did.
Yoda, send that design, Chief.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to find it, but I know I have it somewhere. Even though
If you're talking about capital development, I built the library. I did lose some books, and the building is not symmetrical, so you have permission to kill me. Not that you'll bother to pay $5,000 for a plane ticket.
I will.
But yeah, so that's
we got Rhoda over there.
Okay, so now.
Even the way, I just want to mention one thing with the whole Sea-Terrican war. The perfect summarization of it can be found in a YouTube video that's probably pinned in memes, videos, photos somewhere.
There were a few YouTube videos on that actually. Fixed it. Did one of the Battle of Palenque. That was a joke.
Canadian Sea-Terrican war meme video uploaded.
And then there's Daisy's video.
I love how literally California joins in the middle of a conflict,
in the 2 years.
and we just blossomed.
Rover, everywhere we
guys came
settled,
in
there's always
quite
a
the time.
who settled before us.
Alright, I'm back.
So we settled in California, and then fucking was it Charlie or what's his face?
Charlie. He settled for us.
Charlie, and then what was his name? Creator from Hell, the guy who was kind of a nerd about trains and wanted to charge people money.
Yeah, for West Virginia. So everywhere we settled now, Rover's always a dick who did it before us.
How are we on West Virginia now? We were just on Sharkfynn.
Well, I think it was. Wait, why did we go to West Virginia and not remake California?
People already over there.
Three roads take me
Speaking of Maine.
Because memes also is nice to settle there.
About speaking of West Virginia, what about Rojo?
Rojo, who is from West Virginia. What happened during Rojo's reign?
Rojo's term. Rojo's term ended at his inauguration.
He was assassinated and everything dissipated.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I was the one who wrote that legislation.
Wait a second. Was the the ambassador program was under Owen's term? Never mind.
It was.
Even though even though I got elected chief under Rojo's term, so there's that. But
there you go.
Yay.
Everybody's got to write down what Rojo did because I wasn't even active the entire month. So I literally know the least about Rojo's month.
I was chief during Rojo's month, and that was the first time that I was chief. And as someone who remembers basically everything from that month, Rojo did nothing besides get rid of the military leader.
Which was legislation written by me.
One thing Rojo...
Yeah, the only things that were done during Rojo's term were stuff done by Owen or me. That was it.
Yeah.
I do know, though, Rojo is the first and only instance of two Hoyenahs coming from the same town, because they were both from America. Doctor Who Knows, Doc, and Rojo are both from America.
What about Yodabest?
Which actually, one thing that I want to mention about Rojo
it wasn't the same town. They built
it is a bit understandable that Rojo didn't really get much done, because at the beginning of Rojo's term, that's when Terra Nova, which was the server reset, that was when that was announced. And And if I remember Rojo's like campaign correctly, Rojo really focused on like a bunch of like domestic projects. He wanted to like improve the road system or whatever. All this stuff that now that he knew that a server reset was imminent now meant nothing. So his entire reasoning for wanting to be Hoyenah was now rendered like there wasn't really any point now because he's like, okay, it's going to be reset anyways. So what's the point now?
Whether or not he was capable.
I knew about the reset since January.
Well, that's 'cause you're a bot.
Whether or not he was capable was like that can be debated. But he was dealt a bad hand. He got given.
Yeah.
He got given the nation at a time when everyone was just like, "No, screw this.
We
What
want
we do doesn't
flag.
matter."
We need a flag referendum, not rail.
And then of course
Cop
Terra would only come
Eskimo.
out. Terra Nova would only come out about 2 or 3 months later after that, so that was kind of a stupidly early release. But if I do remember correctly, there was a rival server at the time that Fix was that they might have been
Oh yeah,
concerned
World
about.
MC. That was a thing.
All right.
I made New Zealand.
So I guess we'd be moving on to Owen then. So.
Okay. Oh yeah, which
don't forget the voice changer.
I was a mod sometimes, lol.
Owen and Yoda hold the record for the 2 closest elections back to back. 1 vote made. Which is
I lost that election by 1/3 place vote.
That's crazy.
So basically, I served 1 1/4 terms. I served during September, and I had to deal with the onset of a server reset. So I had to deal with foreign relations, mostly with Byzantium and Britain. I had to deal with the onset of Rome, Britain, and America.
I was mentioning something. From what I remember, before you wanted to deal with like the like foreign relations for Terra Nova, like you were trying to revive
the server. Yes, I created
you
a
made a Discord
Discord
server and you invited like
trying to revive nation leaders. I invited all the major nation leaders.
Reset was imminent, which
To give him credit where it's due, it was more active than Rojo's month, so he maybe did something right, or people started to realize that Terra Nova was a fair way away.
Oh, and by the way, what he's talking about with the Britain and Byzantium stuff, that is the ambassador program.
Which never
So
really
basically,
well, under Owen, people started planning for Terra Nova, basically.
Let me explain it.
No,
what happened was.
Let him talk, guys. Could get off feisty.
I was contacted by Cernil about how he was had close relations with Byzantium, and so I had an idea. Since our relations with other nations was shit to say the least, Rojo and Shark had been isolationists. We didn't interact a lot with other people. We were kind of hated by most of the server. And so my idea was a point to specifically interact with other nations. And so I tried doing this, but it inevitably failed. Even though it was approved.
By the way, it's because Chernil, I don't think he can talk if I'm at the moment.
Shark, Yoda, you two approved the ambassador program?
Okay, yeah, Cernil said disclaimer, I just said I would help with communications between the 2 nations, so, okay.
Yoda,
even though
you two approved the ambassador program. None of you said anything like, Owen, this is a bad idea, so I blame you two.
What happened with it was something that could have worked, but was blown way out of proportion.
Yeah, it was just,
People had too much control for not being
worked, but it
elected.
just, it didn't. That was really it. I mean, one flaw about it, I guess, was even though actually I don't really think that this was a flaw with. Well, okay, actually, never mind. I was going to bring up a hypothetical flaw, but never mind. Okay.
He's really excited. He's like, I'm so excited to be able to talk about my month.
Can we remember anything else that happened in my month besides the ambassador?
Well, I knew we were already starting to plan for the Terra because we got the release date you were leaving. So that was like the big thing. It's like, okay, we're gonna have to adjust the Constitution and get all the town planning and all that done.
Oh my God, the Constitution.
Did we start with the mapping of towns under Owen's turn, or was that yours?
Yoda was it was under Owen because Yoda was in charge of it. So
I remember Yoda being in charge.
I was in charge of it.
And that brings me.
I mean, my main thing during those months was to get started on the planning for Terra Nova. Even though
I was sticking to a sinking ship of Classic. And that brings me to my next point. When I was reelected in October, I was dealing with a lot of stress in my real life. And when on October 8th, I saw that Terra Nova, the release date was November 1st, I abdicated the Hoyenah ship. I stepped down. I knew that I was, after the failed ambassador program, I knew I was not qualified enough to lead the nation into Terra Nova.
The clock was stopped.
I know my weaknesses.
At the 8th minute till midnight, the clock was.
Absolutely.
I actually tried to abdicate. You guys won't let me.
I don't remember that, but
Seriously, I don't remember that. I tried to abdicate, but you guys said I shouldn't.
I thought you wanted to give power to the next person, and we're like, you have to have an election.
Okay, well,
and I thought you started to abdicate towards the end of your month, and that's why I remember, like, we're like, no, you should probably just wait, otherwise it's not a lot of time. Owen did it like on the 8th day, so he was really early. You did it really late, and you were like in the last week, and we're like, you should probably just hold through.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we get to Yoda. So
Yeah.
Yoda was like basically tasked with like the biggest transition project. So.
Yeah. I basically had to figure out how to transition the nation into Terra Nova, which was basically the server reset. But in a lot of ways, it was almost like a completely new server almost, because it was just a lot different from Classic in many ways. Most of them, I think, were negative, but let's not get into that now.
Well, you got sideswiped because you, Brittle, and all the Gov who Constitution actually had to make some major changes because they changed the rules on us, and they didn't tell us until like the day the first people got. So we anticipated a single capital. We planned for that, and then they said no, you got a range, and they didn't even tell us how big the range was. So we had to like make rough guesstimates once they gave us a number, which didn't tell us anything, and we had to make like funky maps to try to guess it. And it was a mess.
Yeah, wasn't that the best government month or something?
Oh yeah.
They got the most done.
For the first term, like that was like my first term. I think I had Brittlewood, Dime, and Shark as chiefs. That was like the best month. Period. Like,
and Brittle's like, see, 3 chiefs is the best.
Well, just the 3 chiefs that we had. It was like the perfect like government
for me, maybe.
Like but I mean, that was when we got the Constitution rewritten, which that was the whole big undertaking. I think it took us like 10 hours to do.
12. It was 12.
Yeah, that was
42.
hectic.
42.
He had to prove whether or not he would be Yoda worst or Yoda best.
Yeah, which we completely redid that. We there was a lot of stuff where we were kind of planning for the Terra Nova or whatever. There was the whole. I remember we had the maps where people would like say where they're planning on making their town, even though I'm pretty sure like only 1 or 2 of the towns were actually made. I'm pretty sure Dazel was the only person who made his town in the place where he said it was going to be. And then, Lucas also made the town. Actually, no, because David was supposed to make New York, but then Lucas had priority, so we told him to make the town for David. And then, Lucas was like, "I'm not going to give David his town."
Wow, surprise!
Oh my god,
that was not surprising.
As is tradition.
Yeah.
But I mean, he got, but we couldn't do anything about it because he had the third, like the highest tier donator rank, so he got on the literal first day.
Yeah, he wouldn't have made New York though, unless we asked him to because I'm pretty sure we had this whole town priority rankings where we got every single town that people were planning on making, and we ranked them in like the number of how big of a priority they were. Like I'm pretty sure New York was the #1 priority, like because there
New
was
York
a
was,
town in
There was
there was
USA.
like
New Orleans was too, because the
New Orleans and New York were among our #1 priorities. I remember that Tenochtitlan was also because of the fact that like there was a person trying to set up in Mexico and they were going to have that as their capital, so we didn't want them to do that. And then with New York, there was
Don't
a
forget
person
my town.
there was a person in the USA, which that was a whole other thing. Which the USA actually, I'll finish talking about the priority thing before I start talking about the USA. But basically, someone in the USA was planning on making New York, so we were like, okay, we need to get this town then before they do. So we were like, okay, New York is probably the highest demand town at the moment. We need someone to make it right away on the server. Lucas, you have blue priority. Please make the town for us. David will take it when he can get on, and then Lucas just kept it. So.
Do you expect Lucas not to though?
Someone asked me for if we had an East Coast picture, an early one, but
I remember the early New York. It looked like shit. It's still.
Oh yeah, which actually about the map thing. There was this whole other thing where there was Zippy or Johnson Avenue or whatever, where he was actually like a spy. Yeah, we managed to catch him because we
we lured a trap. That's right. I remember that. I told you to make different three. We narrowed down the people who we thought it could be, and we made specialized maps because I told you put a special design on each one of them. And then when we caught who it was, to Fernie, I think. Was it? He sent it. He gave it to Fernie.
It was Fernie.
And then when he had the one that Johnson got, we're like, "Gotcha, bitch."
We had a gotcha chat, and it was Johnson Avenue that was spying for Fernie, which Johnson Avenue turned out to be Zippy, which we found that out later on. But
I did not know that.
Yeah,
the leader of Spain, that one.
Yeah, well, Zippy's actually, I think, a leader in whatever it's called Byzantium now.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's the guy that got freshmen to join Byzantium. I don't know. So that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so that was the whole thing that happened. Even though, I guess to backtrack a little bit, the whole USA thing happened, which that kind of got started off on a wrong foot. Which basically, so
drunk
with
diplomacy
Terranova coming on the old server, we had control of all of North America or whatever, right? So with Terranova coming up, I'm pretty sure there were multiple people that were trying to make the USA, because of course the USA, it's the United States that have the. So
Yoda, can I just interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
Can someone please give Serenil his resident rank back?
What? Oh.
Give Serenil resident rank.
Resident rank.
Ow!
Is he in the nation?
What?
Is he actually a citizen?
No.
Yes, he is. The towns of Quebec, Montreal, and Toronto have now joined Iroquois.
Yeah.
They left?
He just might.
Oh, okay. I'll
Serenil, would you like to say?
Where is Serenil?
Does there need to be a vote this time? Because we're not going to redo Run the Boy.
Well, I wonder.
Yeah. I was literally running the whole thing. It got really tiring, so. Because Lucas decided to do.
His town is still in
nothing.
England. It shows on the overworld map, though.
Oh my god, are you special? Yeah,
Okay.
That takes a while.
Joke's on you, bitch. He's a spy.
So then we have you had America, which we kept telling them that the Republic had too many positions because they modeled it after actual America rather than a functional system for townie.
Yeah, well, actually, before that happened, though, it's we didn't really get off on the right foot to begin with, because I'm pretty sure that because I guess we had Fernie or whatever. We had to make a ticket in our Discord, because we wanted to talk to him about the future of North America in Terra Nova and what was going to be the relationship between our two nations. And so we made the ticket, and people probably know where this is going, but then so we make the ticket, and then before, and so Fernie states, I guess his what his I guess jazz is, and then freshman comes in, which yeah, drunk diplomacy, yeah, that's fun.
He got them all like spooked that we were gonna be some big bad guy, but I mean they were all looking for a bad guy. That's why I kept telling people, don't be what they want us to be. Don't be the bad guy. Don't be aggressive. Just be helpful, caring, and eventually they're gonna fall apart because his republic was just not. It was not based in reality. He wanted to actually have senators and representatives that are like, this is not. You don't have a population to sustain something like that. You're just making positions to make people happy. And then you just create too much bureaucracy. And it's basically what it is. He had too many government positions, and it just overwhelmed. And the moment and that's what happens with most of these dictators. They build a nation that essentially requires their own personal intervention to exist. And once they themselves leave, they are like their own constitution. Once they leave, nobody can feel comfortable with the new leader. So that's why I like our republic is, despite, we sometimes get shaky situation, the person who wins is always the person that the majority of the people put there. So there is a sense of legitimacy, I think, with that. That makes it nice, and we're expecting that. They didn't have that.
Like they had even though I think they eventually like tried doing like elections or whatever, but like I'm pretty sure that their leader who got elected as like their second leader I'm pretty sure this is going ahead quite a bit. This is like this is going ahead in the months a little bit, but
let's wait for that.
They got like a second leader or something because that was elected in, and I'm pretty sure that that the person who was elected in, I think it was with Chicago, Fernie, who is their first leader or whatever. He made a town that was like claim blocking one of our towns, which the town was Chicago, because I guess Fernie wanted Chicago or whatever. And then their second leader, they like kicked them, like they were like, okay, Fernie should not be doing that. That's like, I don't know why he's doing it. He shouldn't be. And so their second leader kicked Fernie from the nation actually, and because Fernie was refusing to listen to them, and that was so Fernie inevitably rejoined their nation, and then I guess fed up with what that other person did, Fernie basically took control again, made himself king, and made them be like a puppet of Britain or something like that. And
don't forget the
All right.
Which was good. That's moving a lot more forward.
Well,
but
I mean, the last major thing you didn't mention was the whole mod nation in Texas. The reason why you set up Comanche, and we had to constantly bounce around with that.
Which actually,
they tried to.
We haven't even discussed what happened.
They kept trying
with
to get
the
me to
actual
join
transition. We've discussed what happened before the transition and what happened after the transition, but we haven't discussed the actual transition. Which, the whole transition into Terra Nova, which that happened on whatever it was.
November.
Didn't happen on November 1st because of priority access people had like priority access to 3 days before then. But basically, there ended up being the whole nation range thing, and we had to basically our solution to since there was the nation range is and people wanted to still set up towns all over North America. So basically, our solution to that was to have the 3 separate capitals that would all have their own range, and I mean that's what we currently have to this day, and it's worked pretty well for the most part. And
We're
kind of
totally
allowed
with
for us
last
to
grade. We're already one of the oldest. But
yeah. I mean,
Dude, are you online?
What?
Are you online?
What?
Are you online?
Offline?
Online.
Online.
Like,
Yes.
do you mean like in game, Owen?
No, I mean on RuneScape.
Or who's speaking? Oh, sorry. Oh.
What? I'm not online the server. Okay. Right now.
Okay, can you get on? Anyways, I'll explain to you when you get on. All right.
Okay. Well, so basically,
Let's keep this train moving.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, the transition I think went over, I think pretty well. We made the 3 nations basically back to back to back. Like one day we had the first nation made, the next day we had the second nation made, the third day we had the third nation made, which is pretty good considering the fact that nations were now like 512 gold, and also considering the fact that we didn't really prioritize the nation. We kind of prioritized people getting the towns that they wanted first, and then we did the nations, which I think the fact that we all just worked together to pitch in to make the nations, which actually, which actually going in, I guess mention, I guess part of the reason is crispy, which that's a whole nother the thing that happened.
We haven't even mentioned L4.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
that's not
so,
even under his situation. Most of the L4 stuff.
Well,
is later.
no, that happened. Well, I mean, it started under my term because okay, so basically.
Well, let's just move on though, because we're really.
Okay, yeah, I think
We'll cover that when we get into Myles, and we'll expand upon that because that was the
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on to Shark's second.
I'm basically taking as long with this for my as with my debate answers. So I need
You
to
sound
stretch
really
this out.
excited too. Like this is the best thing you've ever done. Like I've never been so enthusiastic. I love it. I'm like, this is a guy who really loves to talk about this.
Just let y'all know.
Okay.
I love to talk about it
So
too.
Shark, your second term. What was that?
My second term? Wait, sorry, when was that? So, this was basically the term where I drove the Cleveland things. Although it looks like RLZ could do that again if he gets reelected. So it was a pretty quiet month, to be honest, because everyone was doing their exams and things. That kind of killed the mood a little bit.
Oh yeah, like everybody in finals and whatnot. So
it also marked 1 year since Brendan became Hoyenah. Oh yeah, and I was also getting ready to move to New Zealand, so that didn't help.
But wait a second, didn't we get the flag?
We did actually. We did finally do the flag vote, which started under Yoda's term. We designed multiple flags, looked at multiple flags, had multiple flag votes, but in the end, the flag that I designed on a shitty template website won. Yay!
It was 3 months to get a flag, and the one that we ended up with was from the. You type flag maker in on Google, and
it's one of the first things that comes up, if not the first.
Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, so that was glorious.
Yeah.
We also tried to have a sort of public discussion, reflection, Big Block of Cheese Day or whatever it was. David and Skydog came up with.
I think we never had one. Period.
We never got around to it because when the time came, I think it was just me and Brittle who showed up because everyone else was too busy. So that sucked. But yeah, it was not the busiest of months, but we did do the flag. Hey. And we didn't necessarily decline in that month. Things stayed relatively stable, and we just kept going on. It was pretty quiet. In fact, the whole server then was pretty quiet, to be honest. But anyway, next
Then there's Myles'
turn. Myles, finally.
That took 2.5 hours.
The golden age of Wabanaki.
2 years, 2 hours.
But wait a second, before we move on from Shark's turn, I gotta give you an in-depth explanation on each of the flags.
Oh my god.
Don't
An
forget
in-depth
Crispy.
explanation of the
Don't
ambassador
forget.
Okay, Myles.
Yeah.
Okay, hurry up. We're almost done.
Well, my month. It was pretty inactive when I
You're paying me
started,
hourly.
but I like to think that I got a little bit of activity back. I built Iroquois, Manchi, Panama disbanded, Texas went inactive, the U.S. disbanded. A lot of people came back after the toxicity and all that.
Well, didn't you like grow the nation back up? So like, I'm pretty sure like
You forgot
the
Panama War.
oh
I
yeah,
think
that happened. Which
was that my turn?
No, that happened under my term. Which that happened at the end of my term. Which I'm pretty sure I've already gone on long enough with stuff that happened in my term. But basically, there was a skirmish that happened with Panama, and basically I was able to get the nation off the hook somehow. And even though, I'm pretty sure that the Panama Wars what got Crispy into power and what almost got him elected as Hoyenah, because people were unhappy with it because they declared war on us for a dumb reason. We just kind of said, okay, we're not fighting you then, which I mean, hindsight, I mean, we probably should have at least defended ourselves, but that's yeah. So
moving back to
that
Myles.
happened. Yeah. Okay. Basically, it's nothing of consequence in the grand scheme of things. Just know that Panama disbanded under Myles' term, and Myles grew the nation a lot. So.
I don't really have that much else to say.
You actually you had a huge thing that happened during your term because with the L4 situation, basically there was a stand that had to be taken whether he was going to be able to make that capital stay in the nation. Well, with him falling out, that basically completely shifted the power dynamic in the nation because it went from Chris having a lot of potential power and influence to once L4 was removed. What ended up happening is a lot of that support fell apart, and then Crispy didn't even get reelected as chief after we had to recount the vote. So that was pretty substantial because Crispy was like if he could have kept that kind of more aggressive and empathetic approach going, because the nation was kind of had a two-party. It was like a philosophy of kind of like maintaining the same or becoming a bit more empathetic and like not caring about the outside and what we do to them, and that there was people who were
Basically, Crispy's stance was basically, it's us versus them, and we need to basically just be aggressive to everybody else, and we're the best nation on the server.
Let's cover some Myles under Myles' term.
So basically, nationalism.
Yeah, to some degree, but it was more so it was just cut the crap, get stuff done, but let's also not really care about the consequences potentially. But here's the thing: Crispy was very generous. He gave a lot of money away. He actually had echoes of Brendan to some degree. Like he became one of the richest people on the server. He got really close. He was even chief for a month, but once Lacerda did that, like that empathetic, like I can do what I want and I'm gonna do it, kind of took over, and there was consequences. Lacerda wasn't able to stay in the nation after he did that without approval because our constitution says only X amount of nations. Right now it says 4, but at the time it only said 3. He would have had to give up his capital. Like we would have had to make sure a government person could own it, and he obviously didn't want to do that. So, and the reason for that is we don't want to invest resources in a regional capital and then have that person hightail it out and we lose the capital.
Yeah, which I mean, actually, in the
Which
grand
we'll
scheme
get
of
to
things,
under Echo.
that
We'll
was
get to
pretty
under Echo.
significant because
That was.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, under Myles there was the old like value system prevailed. So Echo stays, but Myles did kind of have that stuck around, and it like the empathetic approach kind of died. So then yeah, and then we
forget the fourth nation.
The fourth nation is yours, Echo. So.
Well, I mean, the fourth nation was kind of added under Myles' term, which
Yeah.
which, that was kind of Echo's thing that happened, even though it happened under Myles' term.
Yeah, I was under Myles.
I mean, but I mean, in general, Myles just kind of like grew the nation a lot in general. So I think that was another thing.
I set it up for Echo to
Well, wait a second.
This is
Wait a second, Myles.
Now I don't
You're
feel
forgetting.
like
You're forgetting the biggest thing that you did. You changed Taco Wednesdays back to Taco Tuesdays.
That's true. I did that, and I'm very proud of it.
I like my new British accent. This is litty lit. Lol, Brendan, I have to use this soon.
Yeah. Honestly, the reason why Myles is considered the greatest Hoyenah ever, even above Dazel, is because of that one change he did. He changed Taco Wednesdays back to Taco Tuesdays, and that is.
Echo, I like this.
I'd like to thank the Academy.
I'd like to think because move on to Echo.
I'd like to thank
Under
the,
Echo, the nation, our nation would become the biggest in the server because we had huge developments under with Lucas is growing and we had the Midwest
I can't
growing.
talk, lol, I'm sleepy.
So that's Brendan talking. Brendan, we gotta let Echo talk. He's gotta use this, so don't. So under Echo's leadership, we had the huge the whole Discord got deleted. So March 4th. March 4th and take down Runner Boy. Haha, you get it? March
Which
4th.
basically, Echo appointed Runner Boy as Secretary of the no,
But hey, don't pin it all on him, you boobs. The chiefs had to approve it.
Yeah, I know. So,
And I warned you. I was surprised. I was like, Yoda. But
A day to remember.
But that was, if you go, like, Echo talked about this. I talked about this with Echo a bit ago. But like, we were talking about like, if you guys look through the, if you guys look through the old stuff that I posted, where I had that game where it talks about like was it the theory game, not game theory, survival or something, the game that I had. Remember that where it talks about like when you
Evolution of Trust. Evolution
well,
of Trust. Yeah.
what we had is we had a bunch of people who were very willing to forgive. And what happens is when you have people who are willing to forgive but not like I'm the type of person that if you wrong me, I'm going to require some sort of validation before you get into a position where I trust you again. Runner Boy wronged our nation multiple times, but the people who were in charge did not have the like a level of accountability. Like I'm like, here's the pointer. If they're in that meme video that I made, never put them in the government. Because Runner Boy was literally one of the people he attacked us.
Actually, wasn't Sin in the meme video though?
That's not the same thing now because Sin wasn't aggressors. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the major one of the major issues there was that even after it was found, I mean, of course he was, which I mean, this was really the whole government's fault. But even after he was appointed military leader, and there was a vote whether which there was a vote in the like there was a vote as in pertaining into whether Runner Boy should retain citizenship while he was military leader, which I mean that should have never been the case. He should have had his perms removed.
He should have his perms, but the fact that you guys had the admin rank military leader is the dumbest, stupidest thing I've ever could have possibly imagined. The fact that never raised a red flag infuriates me so much, but
oh well, at least all the dirt on me is gone now.
But the very
he was let in when he shouldn't have been. We should have had a vote first. We really should have had a vote first. We had a vote for Fernie, but not for him. That like so it's not something that was one administration or one person's fault. It was the fault of multiple administrations.
I think it was really just like people getting lazy. It was really just that, and it resulted in the entire 2-year history that was on our Discord getting deleted. And yeah, not fun. That was horrible. But
hey,
it was an extra low blow.
It was. But look where we are now. We recovered. Well, I'm not going to use the word recovered, but we are still here, which is.
Well, I mean, and we did recover. I mean, like, I mean.
Do you guys want to talk some?
I mean, or at least we're working on it. But
It was only the 4th day of the month. I did stuff after that, lol. Let's nose. Brendan Plaza.
Oh yeah.
No one
Even though, wait.
listens to me
So what
otherwise.
happened after that
Because we
with
were
Echo's
talking
term?
about this issue.
So yeah, the Discord got deleted, and then
Well, Echo had a lot of, and I mean, under his leadership, like I said, the nation grew to be absolutely massive.
well, I mean, I think there was mainly just the momentum, like that. Because I mean, it started slowing down towards the end of the month.
It was more or less the momentum from the US falling. It left us as the main dominant nation in
which
North
that happened
America.
under
So
Myles' term, and then so the momentum from that was kind of building us up, but then it kind of started slowing down because we
Yoda, are
weren't
you looking
maintaining
in-game?
some of the
Guys, firework
stuff.
set free as a finale. When this is done,
Lucas was a ticking time bomb when he rejoined us, but then we also had the Midwest. But anyway, that's Eskimo's month. Carry on, Echo. It's up to you.
Yeah. So basically, Echo's month was the stock market doing really well in the whatever it is
Brendan
in
is using Matthew voice.
and then just it all
Brendan,
crashing.
cut it out.
Yoda, you're
Brandon, if
getting
you're going to talk,
messaged
use
in.
Justin.
Hello, everyone. One notice
I
me.
am.
Yeah, Yoda, check your messages in.
We started the loan system.
Yeah, I was gonna
Notice me.
Are
Note
you
Brendan
up to
Plaza.
date, bro?
Yeah, we started work on the Treasury under Echo's term. There you go.
Also the unamendable.
We also did we also edited the Constitution.
Notice me.
And yeah.
Yeah, but
and we started discussing the fifth capital.
And that ended well.
We are
Oh,
not going
and
to
Echo
we
picked
will
7
talk
sheep.
about the
Can't
end
forget
of
that.
last month, where the fifth capital started to happen and became a total disaster.
666.
Okay.
I don't know why they didn't hold a vote. I wish they had, because I wasn't there for it. They should have just included it on the
a vote, and the thing is there is no, when you guys elect people in, there is basically no guide, suggestions, or rules of courtesy.
Lol, stop using this.
I mean, we could just kick you, Brendan. Ooh. This is for us to talk about history. I don't want to no. But anyway, so at that rate, at the moment, we had to deal with the fact that you had a bunch of people who were new that were just kind of doing their own thing, and there, like I said, there's no guidelines. There should have been guidelines. So when things were getting out of hand, like when people were raising the issue of a new capital, nobody brought mention that it's a constitutional issue. I don't think people knew. I mean, it was there, but like that would have been a constitutional issue. So before it could even it on the ballot, but that constitutional issue. So it would have always required a certain like set of rules. And the reason why we have it as a constitutional issue is because, like I said, people leave. So everybody who pushed the hardest for the new capital left in the government. So if they did make it, the people who are left would have had to deal with the consequences of that. And that was one of the major reasons. How many people who are only thinking of in the short term are going to create things that the people who think in the long term and play in the long term and will be here for a long time are going to have to deal with? So that's the thing you've got to think about. So at the end of the day, I mean, mining's here. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they can do their own thing, but we got to keep doing our own thing too. We can't just kowtow at any time someone wants to do something. Best we can do is always let them know that they're always welcome back, and if things don't work out, and we'll go from there. So
Midwest.
I mean, really, we should probably stay away from recent politics because there's probably a lot of heated opinions.
Yeah. So
fight,
and that's really, I mean, Eskimo being the current one.
You
I mean,
guys didn't mention Eskimo lol.
That's kind of what we're talking about.
Eskimo got elected after Echo, which Echo became the first Hoyenah to be seeking
re-election, but didn't win.
but stepping down regardless because he lost the election.
Well, we should preface that the first Hoyenah is a consecutive term because there have been Hoyenahs, David and RLZ and other people in the past who've done campaigns where they didn't win re-election, but it wasn't consecutive. So
yeah.
Wait, what are we talking about? I'm a
re-election.
You're a failure, RLZ.
People who ran for Hoyenah again but didn't win, but it was consecutive. Other people ran but didn't win, but it was inconsecutive.
Yeah, I was the first one to not win a second consecutive term, which Eskimo beat him, but he gave it power regardless, which I guess that's a pretty important thing.
Now that's important to make note of because that was something that we always thought was going to happen. I mean, even with Owen and Yoda, like there was that potential that Owen could have lost, and we were all like, I remember talking to Yoda about it. I was like, if that happens, just be aware, like you gotta be graceful. And I remember talking a little bit about Owen, like about like.
I invited Eskimo to the server, so without me inviting him, Lucas may have won Hoyenah.
Yep, as is tradition, but Lucas scooted over for himself again.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be a rinse and repeat until the end of time. It's going to be Lucas almost getting Hoyenah, but not quite, and then him leaving the nation.
I'm just imagining zombie apocalypse happens. Everyone's dead except Lucas, and he elects himself Hoyenah.
He has
Wouldn't that?
He has
He'll
to
make
spend
New York
so
the
much
capital.
time rebuilding his reputation, and then he throws it out the window. So, like, if he were to come back, like, he's not gonna get close to anywhere where he was. And I bet people who would have voted for him probably aren't as enthusiastic now about his. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway. Yeah. But anyway, okay, so we're at current politics, so let's
meet
get
up
off.
again 2
I
years
think
from
we're
now.
done. Now,
we're gonna...
right, no, we gotta stop. All right, this is about history. We're kind of getting all political, and
We're pushing 3
and-
hours. I want
Here's
to.
the thing. Everybody quiet. Everybody quiet. This is important. We bump heads with Lucas, but that doesn't mean we need to like go after him and all this crap. Like I mean, I still, despite I think Lucas making some dumb decisions once in a while, I still appreciate him as a friend. I still think like he's done some wonderful things for our community. He's not completely a bonehead, and he has contributed. He takes a stand. He likes smaller government. He's not completely selfish, but I do think he does some things that are selfish sometimes. So I just think at the end of the day, we're a community that has been very open for forgiving people, working with people. We've had to take stands, but I think what's made this a community worth protecting and being part of is our attitude. And I think that'd be a great way to end on. We're almost 2 years old, and the 30th will be 2 years old. Not many online communities that are so open and uncentralized, shall I say, in the sense that anybody can like be part of this. We're not very controlling. We let people make mistakes and we even bring them back. The fact that despite all of the problems, all the drama, the deletions, the fact that we've still been able to hold our nation together, I think is something really special and something that everybody should take pride in. Everybody in this chat has contributed to this nation one way or another. Some people more than others, but I think what's really special is the fact that regardless of how much we've contributed, we've all given to something that we think is worth being part of and contributed to it to make it exist and survive for people. So some people have come and gone, some people have permanently gone, some people are here for the first time, and I'm thankful for that. I think that's what makes us different than everyone else, and it makes our community so hard for other people to kind of comprehend a political entity like this that has survived for so long. Our deep history, we've had a lot of bumps in the road, but I think if we just keep going at it and we keep having people enthusiastic and optimistic and try to create something that they can pass and not just make it for themselves in the moment, that creates what we have, and that will keep it going long after I'm gone and maybe all of you are gone. Maybe this community will literally outlive all of us and be passed on to people we don't even know. That's a cool thought. So who knows what will happen in the future? But I just wanted to end on that note. I think that would be a good note to end on. Thank you all for being part of our republic.
Everybody go to Cree.
Everybody go to Cree.
Scramble for Crees.
Now we're gonna have warring provinces.
No, and we're only allowed to go to war if it's over pineapple and pizza. And we all know pineapple and pizza.
Yep. And it's been there since day one.
Yeah, boy.
A moment of silence.
28 blocks of clay. Or
For all the
however
cats,
many.
a moment.
Take a moment
Maybe.
to Mob Wars.
Okay, this isn't related to this at all. But what's the command to clear someone's nickname to show what their actual nickname is?
Nickname / real name. Yoda, you're talking to Polka Dot Monkey.
So
Polka
wait,
Dot Monkey.
There you
Yeah,
go,
so Polka
guys.
Dot Monkey
That's
joined
my
Canada.
new slogan.
Guys,
Let-
there's
let's
fireworks at Cree to end this.
let's create a better future.
That was disgusting.
I'm
Wait a
sorry.
second. Okay.
Okay,
Wait,
after
what's
that
wrong?
last joke, I'm gonna go kill myself. There's no more fireworks.
Hey,
Oh no.
Who do you think you are, Bob?
Okay, so are there any ocelots on the server?
There's Echo.
Yeah, we have one in the game.
Just one in the entire game.
And we have one as a